Hello, guys. We're back. And today we've got a special guest with us. We've got Nicky Forster with us. Thanks for joining us tonight, Nicky.
You're welcome.
Evening,
You're
Nicky.
welcome.
Appreciate it, mate. Yeah, so we're going to have a chat about your career, mate. Just work our way all the way through and sort of a few stories along the way and go from there, really. So first things first, just want to start off with a few sort of quick questions just to get to know you better. So first one is, who was your childhood hero?
Growing up, Kevin Keegan. I had the old England top. Do you know what I mean? With the white shirt with the big blue panel at the top there. My mum embroidered a 7 on the back of it because you couldn't get numbers printed in those days. So she stitched a number 7 on the back. So Kevin Keegan was my man.
Blinding.
He's going to say perm then.
Yeah.
It's the perm on his back.
What's your worst habit?
My worst habit, being late. I'm not late for work. I'm always on time for work, but social events, I'm always late. If my wife says we're leaving at 7:30, at 7:25, she's putting the shoes on and going out the door, and I'm wandering up for a bath at 7:27. So, yeah, I mean, I'm always late in my social life.
Fashionably late, mate.
Well, she don't see it that way.
What's your biggest fear?
My biggest fear is not realizing my potential, not doing the things that I wanted to do. So one of the things I do now is a goal setting coach, and I mentor players, and I go into team business sporting environments, and I go into businesses and talk about goal setting. So always my biggest fear is not realizing my true potential.
Like that. Which team do you support, or which team did you support growing up?
Okay, so we, as a family, we're West Ham fans. We are Hammers. My dad is an East End boy, so that's where that came from. But in terms of now, I pretty much support every team I played for. So there was 8 of them. So as we go through, you'll find out. But yeah, pretty much the teams I played for, it was an honour to play for them. So I support them as well.
Nice. And
got more clubs than me.
Yeah, I know. 8 clubs now. It's 8. With West Ham, there's 9.
Yeah, exactly. And the last one, Marmite. Love it or hate it?
Oh, I love Marmite.
Yes.
Yeah, love Marmite.
Get in.
Sorry, Greg.
I keep being the odd one out here.
Hey, nearly every week, it's the footballers are loving the Marmite, mate.
Yeah, I'll be honest. I wouldn't have anyone who doesn't like Marmite. I wouldn't have them as a friend.
Right, Greg, you better leave then, mate. Should we? Can I leave you, or do you have to do it yourself?
That's it. I'll exit.
Oh, wow. Never mind, Greg.
I'm surprised at the rest of you that he's on.
Yeah, should be ride him out really for that. So you got your start, bit of a strange one, wasn't it? You didn't come through the usual youth system. So at Hawley Town, tell us your story of how Gillingham come about.
Yeah, I mean, it was, if I sort of use that, realizing my potential and making sure I don't have any regrets in my life, and that is a great story for it, because I was playing for a youth team in Hawley in Surrey, and it was in their first team was in the old Dan Air League, which is no longer, and they had a pre-season friendly against Gillingham. And the game was coming up at the weekend, and at the Thursday night training session with the youth team, which we were 16 to 18s, and I was just coming to 18. They said, look, we've got a game against Gillingham, pre-season friendly. Any of you boys want to have a game, second half, come on, then let us know. And it was just a casual sort of offer, really, on the training ground at the end of the game. And I stood and looked around, and no one put their hand up. No one put their hand up at all. Do you want to play against a professional team? And everyone's like, oh, no, I better not, because no one else has put their hand up. So I said, yeah, I'll have a game. Do you know what I mean? Just casually, everyone's like, oh, my God, what's he doing? Do you know what I mean? I was 17.
Wow.
17. And I said, yeah, I'll have a game. Yeah, I'll have a game. And they came, Gillingham, they brought a team down pre-season, as I say, about August time it was, or just before that, July time. And I'll never forget it, because the first team, Hawley Town, played their first team first half, and then they used a couple of dribs and drabs in second half, and I got on in the second half. But after about 35, 40 seconds, Hawley scored and celebrated, as you'd imagine, the fans, the crowd, the players celebrated like they'd scored the World Cup. Unbelievable scenes. Ended up losing 14-1. It was unbelievable. The rest of it was just absolutely, a demonstration on keeping the ball. You know what I mean? Gillingham just played them off the park. But I come on second half. obviously did something. I mean, if I watched a video of it now, I'd probably be embarrassed, but someone somewhere on the pitch or in the stand saw something that they liked, and they offered me down for a trial as a result of that. And out of all those players, those lads that stood around on that Thursday night and said no, I was the only one who said yes, got a trial, and the rest is history. Got a 1-year deal.
Wow.
Good on you, mate.
I can't believe anyone didn't put their hand, like, apart from you. Like, it's mental.
Well,
Did none of them sort of aspirations, or?
Well, I suppose they did. I don't know. I don't think I've seen any of them again. So I never had the chance to say, look, why don't you put your hand up? And it was almost like, it was almost embarrassment. You know, the sheep. Do you know what I mean? We better not do that. No one's put their hand up. First person's looking. And I suppose if everyone put their hand up, or 90%, then the other 10%, they would put their hand up as well. I was the only one that went, go on, I'll have a game. Do you know
I was going to ask you actually, like, do you, obviously you answered it. You obviously haven't don't speak to them no more, or ain't heard of them or nothing like that.
No, I mean, Hawley play their game somewhere else now, sold the ground off, and it's now a housing estate. But I mean, Gillingham bought me, and they paid for I think that they made some nice touches in terms of, they paid a fee for me, and that fee went to put new lighting around the whole ground. And I think they bought a new kit for Hawley Town as well. And then when I went on from Gillingham to Brentford, they got a kickback again, so Hawley got another payout, a percentage. So, and Gillingham always looked after them in that respect, so it was quite a nice story.
That's brilliant.
Yeah.
And who was in charge at Gillingham when you sort of went there? Was it Glenn Roeder?
No, he came after. It was Damien Richardson was the Irish manager. He came in. So it was Damien Richardson, and Ron Hilliard was his assistant, who used to be a goalkeeper at Gillingham. So I signed for them, and it didn't last long. I think it was about 4 or 5 months into it. And then Glenn Roeder came in, and immediately clicked, and he had Mickey Flanagan as Mike Flanagan as the he would have been a great assistant, he would. But Mike Flanagan was the assistant, and he done so much work with me, and in the end he became manager. So the pair of them done really well, Glenn and Mike Flanagan.
That's brilliant. And I saw in your first season there, you scored 18 goals.
Second season scored 18. First, I think I scored either 6 or 8. But second season I scored 18, and we managed to stay up, sort of second to last game of the season. And you know, I mean, I never forget it. And to this day, I mean, Gillingham fans, they boo me whenever I go there. I played a testimonial once at the end of the summer, and they booed me every kick of the ball. And I'm thinking, I'm here doing a testimonial for someone else who played for Gillingham. It was Jim Stannard, the goalkeeper. I played in his testimonial, and the Gills fans booed every touch. I thought, Jesus, I don't need this. But because I left and they were hoping I was going to stay, I mean, there's always been that sort of ill feeling, which is sad, really, because, as I say, they were the club that gave me my first intro.
Was it your contract was coming to an end, and you? It
was, yeah. I had a 1-year contract, signed an extension for a year, and I just thought at that point that was the time where I need to perhaps step up. I scored, I think, 8 first season, 18 second season, and I just thought, do you know what? I need to take that step up now, and so I moved to Brentford, and it turned out to be a good move, so it was the right call.
That's brilliant, mate. Go on, Greg.
I was just you played at Gillingham with one of my old managers, or his assistant gaffer at Croydon Athletic, Neil Smith.
Yeah,
Smudge.
Yeah.
He was, he was one of my managers then. He's Bromley now, isn't he?
Yeah, he's such a great lad, Smudge. I mean, I played with Smudge at Gillingham, as you say, but he also came to Reading, so I was together with him again at Reading. So we were together twice. Great character, such an amazing character. You know, he's life and soul of the dressing room. Even if he's not in the team, he is brilliant in the dressing room. You know, he just laughs at every joke. I mean, a stand-up comedian. Do you know what I mean? You'd want Smudger in the front row because he's perfect. He just laughs at everything. I mean, Only Fools and Horses. You know, it's British history, isn't it? You know what I mean? We've sat and watched it. Do you know what I mean? Together. I remember us being in a hotel once, and we watched it, and everyone knows the gag that's coming with Only Fools and Horses because we've watched it that many times, and he laughs like it's the first time he's ever heard it. It's a great
I mean,
love him. I'm glad he's doing well.
Yeah, he was a good man. Like he wasn't my manager for long, but even just in a short time, that he's a lovely bloke and appreciated everything he sort of done for me in that short space.
Yeah, he's a good guy.
Glad he's doing well as well. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then, like you said, you moved on to Brentford from Gills. Was David Webb in charge then?
He was, yeah, Webby, and he's sort of he was a different manager. Glenn was the one that put your arm around you, like, you're all right. He was that sort of really nice guy, and he was a genuinely nice man, Glenn Roeder. Webby was, I wouldn't say he's not a genuinely nice man. That's unfair to say that, but he ruled it on fear. You know, we were scared. You know, I want you to do this, or this with the ball. If you didn't do one of those three things, you're going to get a rollicking. So. But the one thing that he did really well, Webby, is he simplified the game. And the best managers I've ever played under are the ones that simplify the game so we understand exactly what they want from us. So as players, and he did that really well, and he was successful.
Yeah, 100%, mate. Well, your first season there, I think it was your first season anyway. You've hit the ground running again. You've got 26 goals, 24 in the league.
Yeah.
And you finished second. Was that the year that the Premier League sort of changed the amount? Because second would normally take you straight up, but you went into the playoffs.
It did. We come second that year. We come second to Birmingham, and Birmingham were, and we talked about clubs just off the line before we started this. Birmingham were, you know, a big club in a division too low really for their standings, and they're struggling again, sadly, which could see them drop back down into an equivalent league. But they were a massive club, and they finished above us, and rightly so, to be honest with you. But yeah, we come second, didn't get into the automatic spot, went into the playoff against Huddersfield, lost out over 2 legs, lost out on penalties in the end, actually.
Yeah.
Did you bag yours?
I come off in the second leg. I come off with about 20 minutes to go, and so I didn't get a chance to take one.
Sickener, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I was surprised he took me off, because you take one of your strikers off, leading striker, when it's heading towards penalties in extra time, you take him off. And I think, but he put a couple of other strikers on and tried to win the game. It didn't work, and as I say, we lost out. Unfortunately, we lost out to Huddersfield. Andy Booth was, I think he scored a decisive penalty. Boothie.
I remember.
He scored some goals. He did, didn't he?
He did, yeah. He was a good sort of old-fashioned target man, wasn't he? Huddersfield.
Yeah.
He scored a lot for them. I think he played Sheffield Wednesday in the Prem as well.
Sheffield Wednesday, yeah. I remember him from Sheffield Wednesday.
Yeah.
I see during your time, obviously, at Brentford as well, you got your under-21 call-up for England. Was Boothie in that?
No, not in that one. I played with Boothie at there was the League One and League Two at that time. They put a team together, like a combination, they did put a team together from the 2 leagues, and we went over and we had like a yearly thing where one year we went to Italy and played an Italian team, and which was exactly the same. It was like a combined team of the 2 lowest pro divisions, if you like. So we went over and played in Italy that year, and then they came and played with us a year later, which I didn't play in that one. But yeah, I played with Boothie in that game, but not for England, I don't think. I'm pretty sure Boothie wasn't there for that one. But I played up front for England with Julian Joachim. So,
yeah.
But there's some good names there. Neville was there, Beckham was there. So there were some good names.
Golly.
Never heard of them.
Yeah. Our lives trajectory went about the same sort of way for about 3 weeks after that, and then it went different directions.
Go on, Greg.
Well, just when you was at Brentford, mate, I know when I was looking up like your stats and stuff, you obviously done really well, but I saw a name, Rob Taylor. I've never really heard of him, but he was banging some goals as well, and I just wanted to know about him, mate.
Yeah, I mean, everyone mistakes him because he was Bob Taylor, so everyone mistakes him for the Bob Taylor that played for West Brom.
Yeah.
But, he's a different Bob Taylor. He came from, he started off, I think, as a young boy from Norwich, and then I think he went to Cambridge, and then he came, Dave Webb brought him to Brentford, and he's quite a big sort of lump, if you like, and it was perhaps a James Beattie sort of esque character, but he was incredibly good in the air, and he was a phenomenal finisher. Both feet, could just finish for fun. You give him the ball in and around the box, like Curitan. he just find corners. He just scored goals. So we worked really well because he was deceptively good in the air. So he flicked lots of balls on, and we worked really, really well together. I think he scored 24, 25. I scored 26, I think. So it was a really, really productive season. And Forster and Taylor, so we were called the FT Index. And there was a piece in the paper with Webby sort of saying that he likes nothing more to look in the paper on a Sunday and see that the FT Index has risen again.
Because you scored the majority of the goals, both of you, and I'd never really heard of him, so I just wanted to see what you were saying.
Yeah. I follow him now, social media, and from time to time we sort of connect. But yeah, he was a very, very good. He went on actually to play for Gillingham, and he was involved in the amazing final against Man City, Gillingham versus Man City at Wembley. And
Nicky Weaver.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, and I think Man City won it in the end, didn't they? And then
he ran up the pitch, didn't he?
That's right. And after that, he was signed for Man City. So he played for Man City up front with Sean Gota and did well for City. And then I think he went back to Gillingham and finished his days there.
Decent career then. And then the second season, like the season after that, weren't as good at Brentford. Did a lot of players leave or anything? Because you end up finishing 15th the following year.
No, I mean, I was injured for quite a long period of the season. I got an injured. Yeah, I'd like to say they had some good players. Webby just found players. Do you know what I mean? And he got players just to run through brick walls. I mean, we had a young lad, Gus Hurdle. I don't know if you've heard the name. And Gus,
bus driver.
He was a bus driver for the London buses, London Transport, and he turned up the training ground. And this is the story. He was doing a five-a-side on the side of the pitch. Webby was just standing watching, and his assistant was reffing it. And Gus said, "Excuse me." So he said, "Yeah, what can I do for your son?" So he said, "I would like a trial." So he said, "Okay." He said, "Go." He said, "Put it in writing." So he said, "Here it is," and pulled it out of his pocket and gave it to him. And he said, "I like that. Come in tomorrow morning." And he signed him, and you know, he had players that almost were indebted to him. Do you know what I mean? Would run through walls for him. And as I say, he simplified the game. So we all knew what we wanted. If we didn't do it, blimey, we were in for a rollicking. Do you know what I mean? So, yeah, I mean, he was a good character, Webby. I mean, one of the old sort of Chelsea boys, wasn't he? London Road Chelsea boys in the old days. He was, and I remember one day, I know, as I say, he sort of led us a little bit with Fear Factor. And one Sunday, opened up the paper, one of the Crays had died. I think the second one of the Cray boys, Ronnie, had died, or Reggie had died, whichever one it was. And on the procession and the paper, the press coverage on the Sunday, Webby's pretty much front row, walking along the sort of cortege as they're walking down the road, and he's there with all the other sort of gangsters and that walking along, and thinking, oh, don't want to cross him. Do you know what I mean?
If he weren't in football, you know where he'd be.
Well, yeah. I mean, I remember like we used to go away like end of the season. He'd take all the players away. Do you know what I mean? And we'd go away on a club holiday, you know, drinking and the young boys. I remember we come back to the hotel about like 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock in the morning, dribs and drabs, and Webby would be almost like the bell man in the lift. Do you know what I mean? The door would open, Webby's in the lift, and he'd say, you two, fuck off. I want you in the lift. And he'd get the lad in the lift. And by the time he got him up to his floor, the guy had signed a new contract. That's how he did the contracts, apparently. So lads were signing, you are going to sign this contract. You know what I mean? I think it was one of them.
Did he try and flog you any moody gold, or?
No, he used to sell some bits and bobs from the back of his, some clothing from the back of his big, like a hearse. It was a great big Mercedes thing, and he did sell some bits and bobs out the back of that a couple of times. Yeah,
classic.
Brilliant.
Go on, Greg.
The old Ralph Lauren polo tops with only 3 legs.
We've all had them. I
was going to say I bought loads of them. The whole family was kitted out of them.
I read something about I don't know whether you knew about it. Crystal Palace were interested in a possible move for you at the time. Was that after the first season? That was
that second season, yeah. And that when I was playing, that was the other thing that sort of unsettled me. It's the first time I'd had speculation. I come to the end of my career at Gillingham, or my contract at Gillingham. My agent said, "Look, this club's interested. Good club. We'll go and meet them." Met them. Felt right, so I signed for them. And but this is the first time I had speculation whilst I was under contract, and they offered, I think, 700 grand or 800 grand, and then a bit more. I think 1.2 million. Someone said, and Webby said you can have him for 1.5. That's ridiculous money in those days. And they said, nah, we'll leave that. And they went and bought Dougie Freeman, and they needed a small player, quick player, to play up front with a guy called Gareth Taylor, who they'd signed from Bristol Rovers. Big guy, wore a bandana on his head, and he would have been perfect for me to play up front with. And but as I say, Webby got greedy, and the move didn't happen. And after that, Carlos Saba came through, and I mean, it's the first time I've ever had a manager be like ruthless. And he said, you can either go to Birmingham or you can sit in the reserves for the rest of your contract. You'll never play again. And I said to him, what have I done? Why is, he said, it's up to you. He said, you can leave the office now. Off you go. And it was brutal. So,
take that.
Yeah, it was. Yeah. And,
I'm not going to argue with him.
No, and that is sometimes what football is like, especially in those days. It's not quite like that so much, but when you're hot, and when you're not, you're not. So, do you know what I mean?
Did he give you a reason in the end, or was it literally just?
Well, I said why. He said because I think Carlos Saba's a much better player than you'll ever be, and I said, oh wow, okay. I said he ain't scored anywhere near the goals. He said that's my view. So to be honest, and when I look back now, Carlos Saba was coming through. He could see Carlos Saba was going to do the job he wanted to do. He could see I was in demand, and he could get money for me. It was perfect. Get him out, get the money, bring this one through. That's how they do it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
That you know, and don't forget, in those days, a lot of managers did have little clauses where they got little kickbacks if they got this revenue in, or they saved this amount of money on the budget. So it made sense.
Thinking of Ralph Lorenz then, eh?
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
Go on, Kyle. You had something, mate?
No, just back on that speculation thing. Like, what is it like for a player when you know you're being touted, like, you know, clubs are after you?
Yeah.
Does it affect? How much does it affect you? Does it make, you know? Does it make you want to play better, or what does it do to you? I mean, I've never had it.
Certainly, when you're older, you can deal with it better. You know what I mean? If you say, "Oh, we used to get wins," especially Brentford. It was a London club doing quite well. Lots of youngsters in the team. So, I mean, nearly every game we had a home game. It was like, oh, a scout from so and so's here tonight. A scout from they're here tonight. Scout from Blackburn. Scout from this team. Do you know what I mean? It'd be like, cool, I wonder who they're looking at. Do you know what I mean? They probably weren't looking at anyone. They're just taking in games and just thinking, well, let's go down there. Have a few players down there I know doing quite well. So it does sort of raise that sort of anticipation, that expectation. You sometimes hear yourself saying, got to play well tonight. I've got to play well. Well, that's ridiculous. Do you know what I mean? You don't play well just because you go, I've got to play well tonight. As I say, I do some work with my son now, Jake, who's at Charlton. And I say, Jake, don't worry about playing well. Don't focus on playing well, because you won't play well. Focus on what you do well. And if you do those things really well, you'll play well. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Midfielder, if you move the ball, pass the ball, be progressive, don't keep passing the ball back, take a chance, drive into the box, do the things you're good at, and you'll have a good game. You won't have a good game just because you go, I need to play well. I need to really do well. What is doing well? Do you know what I mean? So I would be better at dealing with it now, but then, you know, I suppose we all would with experience.
Yeah, of course. Well, he's doing all right, mate. He's obviously learning on his free kicks. He scored a screamer the other day, didn't he?
Yeah. He's got a good left foot, so he's a left foot central midfielder, which is a nice combination. But in truth, he did score a very good goal, but he probably should score more of them. So there's the parent. There's the parent.
Yeah,
exactly. Yeah.
So critical.
Never at me. Never at me.
Go on, Matty.
I was just touching on the bit there, what you said when they were trying to move you on. Like, mentally, that could have broken you if you weren't a strong character.
Yeah, I mean, there's lots of areas of professional sport that are brutal. I remember one manager, well, he was a manager. He was a youth team manager at Brighton. Lovely old guy, been in football for 45, 50 years, something like that. And he said, Foz, he said, you know, he said, it's a great game, but it's not a great business. And I sort of thought, yeah, in fact, he didn't say, he said, it's a great game, shit business, you know, and he's right in some ways, because, you know, these players, and I've been there, where you're so hot, everyone wants you, you're in demand, and when you're not, you're as I say, you're gone. And the ruthlessness of that can leave you feeling very low, very underappreciated, undervalued for whatever you've done, because you could play for 8-9 years for a club, and once your time, you know, they move on. But that's the nature of it, and the quicker you understand that, the better.
Yeah, I mean, it must be strange. I suppose in the modern game, you wouldn't be approached direct. They would probably go through the agent to tell you and stuff like that. It just seems the baptism of fire that you had maybe 20, 30 years ago seems to have massively gone out of the game, where a lot of these youngsters are very like arms around him, don't confuse him. In them days, it was just sort of, this is the way it is. And if you don't like it, you can jog on, basically.
There are elements that have changed, but there are elements still that are the same. And there are still players that, you know, players do get tapped up. There's no doubt about it. You know, I've had managers, as I'm walking off the pitch, do you know what I mean, saying, don't sign a contract until you spoke to me in the summer. You know what I mean? Under their breath. And you know what I mean? And do you know what? In some ways, that's a little mini pat on the back, a little mini boost. And I used to think, I'm having that. Do you know what I mean? So if the next time I played against his team, I think, I'm going to show him, you know what I mean? I'm going to show him, you know, I'm a good player. You know, Mick McCarthy tried to sign me 3 times, I think, and in the end. And I only found that out, funnily enough, bumped into him in Westerham once on a Sunday morning. He pulled up, believe it or not, Mick McCarthy pulled up in a red Ferrari, which is, you would not imagine Mick McCarthy driving a red Ferrari, but he did.
Not at all.
No, he got out of a red Ferrari, and I said, that's Mick McCarthy. I was with my brother, and went over to him and said, hello, Mick. And he said, bloody hell. He said, like, in fact, what he said to me, he said, you look better now than you did when you were a player. I said, I take it as a compliment, Mick. He said, he did say to me, he said, I tried to sign you 3 times. He said, but for one reason or another, it just didn't happen. And I know Joe Royal tried to sign me, and in the end, he did sign me. So, you know, you do get managers that do like, obviously do like players, and you know, I think still nowadays a lot of it is done by agents now, and the agents control now is much more. Players have to be signed to agents, which I've never liked. I never signed a contract with an agent in all the time I was played. 20 years, 19 years I played, and never signed a contract. Always said to the agent, listen, you do a good job for me and I'll stay with you, and that's the way we'll work. If you do a good job, we'll both make money, and I do a good job, we'll both make money. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And but Jake has had a number of agents. He's 26. He's had a number of agents, and the trouble is that some of the bigger companies, which players want to be linked to because they're the big players, but they might have 40 players. You know, and I say to Jake, you know, an agent with 40 players, Jake, where are you on that list of importance?
Don't care about it. And
then, where if you have a look at that list of importance, how much does that mean then if you equate it in time?
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? You want someone working for you. That's what they're there for.
100%. I just feel that they're just there. A lot of agents are there just to make as much money for themselves. I don't really give 2 toots about the player, to be honest.
Yeah, I think that's a generalisation, and I wouldn't necessarily agree with that. I think players nowadays, you know, there's a lot more. There's a lot more that the agents try and get to know the players a lot more. They do a lot more things off the ground and things, and they meet and they spend a lot more time. They go and play golf. They sit and have coffees. They try and get to know the players and know. But listen, an agency fundamentally is there to make money, but then so is a professional footballer, so is a manager. Do you know what I mean? So the business element is there. There's no doubt about it. But you know, I just think. Sometimes the agents don't help the players. Do you know what I mean? They build them up so much nowadays, almost like parents build them up so much to an overinflated impression of themselves. And the other thing is, I think that players nowadays will go to their agent to sort out any issue. In the olden days, if I had a problem, first thing I'd do is go and knock on the manager's door. I think they just think, oh Christ, it's not him again, is it? Do you know what I mean? But at least I could look him in the eye and see, is he being honest with me? Is he bluffing? Do I believe what he's saying? Do you know what I mean? Is he genuine? And I think in any business, if you meet someone and you look them in the eye then you can generally have a rough idea whether you're being fobbed off, whether you believe it or not. You have a gut reaction, gut feeling, don't you? Do you know what I mean? And they don't do that anymore. It's passed from one person to another. You know what I mean? It's always there's an intermediary always, and that's not a great thing. And I remember a story when I came out of football. I was in management, and I went to a job interview, and I expected the chairman to be there, and it wasn't. It was a representative of the chairman. So I said, "So chairman's not here." So he said, "No, what you're going to do? You're going to present to me, and then I'm going to go to the chairman and tell them." And I said, "Okay, so how many people are presenting to you?" He said, 3. I said, "Okay, there's only 2 now." He said, "Because my chance of getting the job is only as good as your presentation of mine."
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? So I said, if that's the case, then it's not right for me. And I stand by that, and I stand by that with agents. And I say to Jake, don't just knock on the door. Don't just come off the training ground with the phone your agent up. You need to tell the manager this or ask the man. Go and knock on his door and you tell him, because that's how he'll know you care. That's how he'll know that you're not happy because you're not playing. That's how he'll know that you want to do better for him, for you, for everyone. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then you can build a better culture rather than this, go and ask the manager, well, I'm not playing this week. No, you do it.
Yeah.
As a manager, you'd respect that more as well. Someone showing a bit of bollocks and coming up to you themselves, wouldn't you?
Do you know what? I was a manager for a while, and when players came in and said, "Gaffer, I ain't happy," and I say, "Why not?" And they say, "Well, obviously not playing, or this or this." And I say, "Okay, fair enough. No, I'm glad you've come in and told me. At least I know he cares."
It's true.
Yeah, that's
There's
it.
too many players nowadays sit in development squads for 4 or 5 years, and how many first team games have they played? 15, something like that. They've been a pro from 18 to 23, 5 years, and they've played 15, first team games.
Yeah, it's a short career as well.
I've always thought that you're not what I would call a first team player until you've made sort of 50 starts. Then you're an established first team player when you've made 50 career appearances. But until that point, you're just, I don't know, you're just drifting for me.
Yeah. While we're on the point of agents, yours was Eric Hall.
He was, God rest his soul. Yeah, we lost Eric recently, several months back, and we talked about a good friend of mine, Ian Pearce, who I went to school with, and he introduced me to Eric. Eric was his agent when he was at Chelsea and Blackburn when he won the Premier League, and he introduced me to Eric. And Eric comes with such a label, doesn't he? Monster, and the big cigar, the loud shirts, and yet Eric was absolutely first class with me. Brilliant. And again, I said to Eric, I don't want to sign a contract. I said, if you get the work, if I do well, there'll be demand. You do the deal, you deserve everything you get. He was a colourful character, Eric, and I love the guy. I really do love the guy. And I remember he went into a couple of meetings. He said, obviously, we've got to sort me out first. He said about himself. He said, Nicky, in a minute. I was thinking, oh, Eric, Jesus. But he was loyal, and he looked after me, and I looked after him. So it was a good relationship.
That's brilliant. Because I must admit, when I found out that he was your agent, it was the first I knew that he even represented any footballers. I had no idea.
Well, he represented loads. In the 80s, he was big friends with Terry Venables. So in the 80s and 90s, he was all of their agents, Tim Sherwood, all the Tottenham boys at that time. He was all of them. He represented them all. And Piercy got hold of him, I presume, through Tim Sherwood, who was at Blackburn. They were at Blackburn together, and I got introduced to Eric through that. And as I say, he was brilliant. After Eric became really ill. Eric, he got blood poisoning, and it sort of went to septicemia, and he was very lucky to not to lose his life. And he was in a coma for about 4 or 5 months, a long time. And during that period, I had a move, and it was from, I think it was from Reading to Ipswich, and I needed an agent. So I used Phil Smith, who was one of the big agents in a company called First Artist. And they're still agents nowadays, him and his brother, Phil and Paul Smith. And they represented me till the end.
Oh, wow. And then, back to sort of your time at Brentford, your third season, you finished 4th back in the playoffs.
Yep.
And yet again, playoff final this time against Crewe.
Yeah, I mean, I left them and went to Birmingham in the January, before the end of the January transfer window. So that was the time when Webby just said, "You're not going to play. You can either go to Birmingham,
was it?
or you can sit in the reserves." So I went to Birmingham. They wanted me. They had a good squad. Trevor Francis was the manager, so I went there and played the first three, scored three and three. So I started off really well, was doing well, and then bang, I got my first real long-term injury. In fact, someone said to me when I signed, "Whatever you do, don't get injured, because the physio is the toughest, hardest physio you'll ever come across. He will beast you every single day you're injured." I was thinking, oh God. So anyway, done my cruciate, 3 games in, done my cruciate. I was out for 6 months.
Big one.
It was one of the best learning curves of my life, because this guy just brutally destroyed me, but made me mentally stronger, physically stronger, got me back to as perfect as he could have got me back after having such a invasive surgery. And he was brilliant. I mean, the guy was amazing. I still talk to him today.
That's class. Go on, Greg, over to you, mate.
On that, did you play in any of the rest of that season?
I play in terms of when for Brentford, or when I went to Birmingham.
Yeah, for Birmingham.
No, when I went to Birmingham, I played 3 games, got injured, and I was out from February through till September. So I missed all of the pre-season of the following year as well, and didn't start playing until about September, October.
All right.
And that was the thing. That was the first sort of eye opener for me, because when I signed for Birmingham, I mean, they had some really big names: Steve Bruce, Mike Newell, Anders Limpar, Barry Horn, Gary Ablett, some really big names. Do you know what I mean?
There and all.
Cotty come later. Cotty come later. But I got injured, and in the time I was injured, by the time I'd come back, they'd signed Dele Adebola, Peter Ndlovu, Paul Furlong. I was 4th choice straight away. I was 4th choice, and so that was a tough learning curve, because I came in they wanted me to play. I put the shirt on, the boots on 3 times from them, and then all of a sudden you were 4th choice in line, so you were on the bench trying to fight for a place.
That's a sickener, mate. What was Peter Ndlovu like? Because like growing up in the 90s, he was a bit of a superstar, like
Maverick.
Coventry and that. I love Peter Ndlovu. What was he like as a player and a bloke?
Just amazing player. Did things in training, and he was sort of almost like he'd be pinned in by 3 defenders in the corner, and now he'd come out the other side with the ball whilst they were still stood like where he was momentarily ago. Was just beyond belief what he could do with the ball. In the similar way, Trevor Francis could do the same, even at that age. I don't know what Trevor was when I went there, and he was managing. He must have been 45, 46, 47, something like that. And he could do some unbelievable things. But Peter Ndlovu, or Nuddy, we used to call him Nuddy, and and he was just unbelievable. He was a great lad as well, but I think I've told the story recently, like he had an M3, and a couple of lads had really nice cars, but they drove quite a long way in, so they bought little runarounds just to fly up and down an Escort or a Fiesta or something like that, to fly up and down the motorway, so they didn't put loads of mileage on his cars. And I remember Furlong said to him, "Nuddy, why don't you got an M3, why don't you buy another car so you don't keep putting the mileage on the M3?" So he said, "Good idea, first, good idea." So he bought another M3. He bought a second M3. Unbelievable.
That pocket change getting on all right.
But yeah, he was one of the most talented players I've ever played with.
Where did he play after Coventry?
He came from Coventry to, I don't know whether he came from Coventry to Birmingham, but he was at Coventry before Birmingham, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah,
pretty sure it's
Yeah,
that way
it was,
around.
yeah.
Where he went after that, I've got a feeling he might have gone to Sheffield United, and I think he retired or went back home to Zimbabwe after that.
Yeah, he did. He went Sheffield United, and then he went back to Zimbabwe and played for a few sides there.
Yeah, I mean, there was a national day in his honour, Peter Ndlovu Day. It was a day, and the same was with Sean Gota as well. There was
in Bermuda, yeah.
There was a Sean Gota Day, which was a national holiday. Unbelievable.
That's quality, isn't it?
Yeah.
Go on, Greg.
When I was doing a bit of research and that, So, but you played Arsenal that season, or was that the following season? The Coca-Cola Cup, I read.
I don't remember the game. Don't remember the game.
I was going to ask if you were there at all. I mean,
where was it?
From what I read,
Home
I think
or
it was
away?
in. I don't know whether it was away or not.
We might have. We put.
You went to extra time.
It might have been at. It might have been at home, because I can't recall it, and we certainly didn't play because I've never played at either the Emirates or at Highbury, so it couldn't have been away. So if it was away, then I wasn't there or I was injured.
I
think I actually read that you missed the game. Actually,
okay.
Why? I think it's on. Yes, I think when I read up, I think they played.
I was just reading about the game though.
Yeah,
someone got sent off after 33 seconds into his debut for Arsenal. I was just reading up about it. I couldn't believe it.
I can't help you guys because I just it's one of those that's just not in my memory at the moment. So
I'm an Arsenal fan and I can't even remember that.
No.
Well, as Carl said, you missed it. So
yeah. I think so. I don't know. I feel like I read somewhere.
If I played, I would have played very well. But I didn't play. Definitely not.
3 disallowed goals, wasn't it?
Yeah,
Perfect hat-trick, 3 disallowed.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And then, obviously, following your time at Birmingham, you moved on again, gone to Reading. So, how did that move come about, and who was in charge who took you to Reading?
Well, as I came back from the injury from Birmingham, it became clear that the other boys were playing well enough. Adebola was playing well. Furlong was a great player when he was fit. He was just magnificent, and Ndlovu, as I say, was just that sort of enigmatic sort of creator that Trevor Francis loved. So I was surplus to requirements. So I sort of said to Trevor in the summer, look, can I move on? And he sort of said, yeah, if you really want to. I said, well, I just want to play games. If I'm not going to play games, I'd like to move on. Because as I said, I always wanted to, I didn't want to be a player that finishes my career and played like 200 games. I want to play as many games. I want to play every single game. Like I said, I'd knock on the manager's door if I weren't playing, at any stage. So Preston came in for me. David Moyes was the manager, and we went up to see them on I think it was a Friday. It was a Friday. Looked around the club. In fact, we went up slightly earlier in the week. No, we didn't. We went up on the Thursday, the day before. And they were a bit unsure about my knee, the one that I damaged at Birmingham. So they asked me to have an MRI scan. So I said, well, look, I can do, but I don't really want an MRI scan because, I mean, if you fail me, what are you going to put it out that you failed on the MRI? I'm looking for a new club.
Yeah.
So there was an agreement that if I failed or they weren't happy with it, they wouldn't go public with that. They'd just say that we couldn't agree terms or something like that. So it was a negotiation there before we even got going. I was a little bit uneasy about it because I'd played 25, 30 games since I'd come back. So I said, look, I think I've demonstrated that the knee's okay and can cope with games by playing 30 games. I haven't played 2 or 3 games. You're not taking a risk here. But anyway, they made me have an MRI scan. And then, so I had to stay overnight from the Thursday to the Friday. They showed me around on the Thursday, and then I looked around the area on the Friday before my MRI scan. And I went back to see him and I said, look, I'm happy with everything. They were happy with the scan, so that was not an issue. And I said, look, I want to go home for the weekend, just mull it over, just make sure it's all right. But I'm pretty sure I'll be back Monday to sign a contract. So he said, fine. On the drive home, Eric all got a call. We were on the way back home and Eric got a call from Reading saying we'd like to speak to him. So we detoured from the M1 across to the M40, down the M40, straight into the Medeski Stadium, saw Tommy Burns, another man who's sadly not with us anymore. And when I saw the club, and I just felt at home, felt right, felt okay. And I had the difficult call. And I remember I was saying to my dad, I said, do I need to phone David Moyes or can I just text it? He said, no, you got to phone him, son. You can't.
Eric.
Yeah. No, I knew I was going to do it myself. He said, no, you got to do it. And my dad said, I said, can I text him? He said, no, you got to ring him. You know you have. And I said, yeah, okay. I said, yeah, he said, there's the right thing to do and the wrong thing to do. So I remember ringing David Moyes and he refused to talk to me. He didn't answer the phone. He wouldn't. I rung him 3 or 4 times. I spoke to someone else, so he knew Eric is obviously, so someone's told him or he's got heard of it. And to this day, I mean, I said something to him when we played against them the following season, and he sort of blanked me. And what's more, they sent me the bill for the MRI scan that they insisted I had. £800 bill, unbelievable. So I didn't pay it.
Tommy Burns was on the blower to Moisey. We fucking got him, you.
I know, yeah.
I bet it was, yeah. That's unbelievable. Billed you as well.
I know, yeah, £800. Never forget it. £800 for an MRI scan.
What spoiled brat? Just because he didn't get what he wanted, eh?
Well, I don't know. Yeah, I mean, I think he was pretty sure that I would come back up and sign, and the fact I didn't sort of peed him off a little bit. I think so.
Yeah. And then you said about Tommy Burns. I don't think he was in charge long, was he? When he was there?
No, he was. Do you know what, Tommy? He was just a student of the game, and we'd start off. He'd say, "We're going out doing a little bit of shape today, guys. We're only going to be out there for an hour," and literally every single permutation or permeation, whatever the word is, he wanted to cover everything. And honestly, there were times at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, we started at 10, and 5 hours later, we've done a warm up and we're still in that first little block of shape stuff before we've even gone on to some possession or a game. You know, it just could not. And I remember someone sort of once just went, "Gaffer, can we not just play off the cuff a bit?" And you know what? It just was the worst thing you could say. You know, it just, in the end, it was just an information overload, and the players just couldn't cope with it, and it was just too much. And unfortunately, the players didn't really take to it, and the results weren't good enough, and he lost his job. And then in came Pards, Alan Pardew, and I've spoke about Pards recently, and he's one of those people. We spoke about Marmite, and he is the classic Marmite. People either love Pards or hate Pards, but for me, Pards was one of the best blokes I've ever played with, and I think he's mustard for a player, because he is when he likes you, he makes you feel like you're riding on that crest of a wave, and as a striker, it's a great feeling.
Yeah, we've got some good comments about Pards, haven't we, so far?
I was going to say, a lot of people are, you know, obviously we don't see it as a normal fan as such sort of thing, but a lot of the players and that have all said, you know, rated him quite highly, to be fair. So as a bloke more than anything as well, do you know what I mean?
He is. He's not anywhere at the moment. He
probably still under contract with Newcastle, wasn't he?
Well, no, he's at. I think he wasn't he at West Brom? Was it? Oh, he was at West Brom for a while, was he, or something? I don't know where he was.
I can't remember where he was last time.
He's been everywhere.
Isn't he?
I think he's always wanted to manage Fulham by all accounts, and you know, but they've done really well under Scott Parker, so it doesn't look like the job's going to come available soon. Whether he'd get it now as well, whether he'd want it now, but Pards was brilliant. I mean, Pards, I tell you what Pards did. There's a story about Pards. He took over, and within 3 or 4 days of training, it got to the Thursday or something, took over on the Monday, and he said, right, everyone after training, finished training, he said, everyone come in. So everyone, he said, get a shower. He said, we'll meet you back at 2 o'clock at the Players' Lounge at the Medeski Stadium, bite to eat, and then we'll have a meeting. Everyone's like, oh, Christ. Do you know what I mean? Just want to go home. You know, we've got really busy afternoons on the PlayStation or something. Do you know what I mean? Or something was on the telly we wanted to watch. I don't know. But we all went back, and he had on the screen, he had a batch of 6 games, the next 6 games we had. And he said, okay, so what do we want from these 6 games? And he started making some targets for us to hit. So really started laying down some goals for us to achieve. And in terms of points, in terms of clean sheets, in terms of goals for, and then we went out on the training ground, and he improved us that way as well, in terms of he made it clear how he wanted us to play. He made us better physically. He had Martin Allen that just beasted us and made us fitter.
Mad dog.
All of a sudden, straight away, within about 2 or 3 weeks, the results started to improve, and we started to build and go up the table, and we overachieved. There's no doubt about it. We were underachieving as a team, and with that principle, we overachieved. We missed out in the playoffs, and then the following year, the same method was the process was applied, and we got promotion. It was amazing, and brilliant. For me, it was really, that's where I sort of started to. understand that maybe the actual game of football I'm not in love with in terms of, I love football, don't get me wrong, but I wasn't a student of the game. So like a manager needs to be a student of formations and how to counteract that and different shapes and how styles they want to play. Me, it was more like the physicality of football, you know, in terms of the challenge between, you know, myself and the defender. That I love, that relish, that battle, that head-to-head battle. Are you going to beat me? Am I going to beat you today? Can I get shots away? Can I get 3 shots on target in the first half, 3 shots on target in the second half? I'd bully the wingers and say, right, I want you to get 3 crosses into the box first half, 3 crosses in the box second half from each side. So that'd be 12 crosses. And I'd expect to get on the end of 2 or 3. You know what I mean? So for me, it was more the challenge. It was more the physicality. And I used to love spending time with those goal setting sessions. And I used to love spending time with the sports scientist, you know, at Reading. He brought in a brilliant sports scientist. And all of a sudden that was the first time I ran on treadmills, you know, with the mask on, you know, breathing apparatus, which was horrible to have over your face. And every 3 minutes they'd take you off, they'd prick your finger, take a little tiny glass tube of blood and take your lactate threshold. And I started to learn about that. And that's when I realized, you know what, that other side to football and sport is really where I was at.
But before I come to Matty and Greg, do you think that's sort of what set the foundations into what you're doing now then?
100%. Yeah. I mean, I now spend my time, as I say, training people, coaching people, setting goals for people, and going into institutions, businesses and sporting environments to help them do those same things. Because you know what, football is a business like anything else. It is an organization, and it has targets, you know, has a vision, same as a company does. So the skills that I learned in the dressing room are transferable into, say, the boardroom, and they are transferable skills. The terminology is slightly different. We're looking at points and clean sheets, as I say, and goals for, rather than the business terminology is slightly different. Do you know what I mean? But they're still very, very similar.
Yeah, no doubt. Go on, Greg, over to you, mate.
Just a little bit on the Reading, like with the players you played with, and obviously, like Parky went on to be your manager, and obviously you met up with him quite a few times along the way. But like other players, Limboy Primus, and we said earlier, obviously you went with Smudge again at Reading, and I noticed a couple of players who came in on loan, Kevin Lisby, and the current Premier League manager in Graham Potter.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Just
Potter. I wasn't with Potter.
No.
Oh. I see Les Ferdinand and Martin Keown came in as well.
They did. Yeah, I saw that as well.
Yeah, I mean, Les was just, I mean, we all sat around when we knew we'd signed Les Ferdinand. We're thinking, right, we're going to ask him about some of the women he's been with, because the list was supposed to be amazing.
Didn't he go out with Danny Bear?
Yeah, that's the one that came to mind. So the first one we asked about.
I remember growing up, and he was with her.
We let him get in through the door and into the dressing room. And about 3 minutes after he'd been in there, we started going on about Danny Bear and that. But Les Ferdinand never said a word about anyone that he'd been with or anything he'd done. He was such a nice gentleman. He really was. And
everyone loves Les, don't they?
Yeah, they do. And he is such a great guy. I mean, you know, we all like kids sat in his DB9 or DB7, whatever it was, after training. And then the next thing, because we knew he had a helicopter, we said, right, Les, when are you going to bring your helicopter in? And
did he fly it and all?
Yeah, he flew the helicopter into training once. And we
he's got a pilot. Oh.
Yeah, we sat in the changing rooms like this. Do you know what I mean? And we're like, you can just hear. We're like, Les is here. Everyone, Les is all like outside and watch Les come round. And unbelievable. So yeah, like kids we were.
That's brilliant. Go on, Matty.
So just quickly going back to Pardew, how's this for where he's at now? He's the technical director of CSKA Sofia.
Is
that is
random. That is
random.
Yeah.
But he's from Mitcham or Wimbledon.
Who's the manager? Who's the manager there? There must be a link.
I don't know. I'd have to, again, allow me.
That's like old fucking Mick McCarthy's just been out in Cyprus, hasn't he, before he went to Cardiff for a 2-month holiday.
Yeah, I mean, Steve Coppell used to take jobs all over the place, didn't he? Do you know what I mean? In far-flung places as like directors of footballs, and I'm sure they were just like he could sit they wouldn't have to be on site very often, probably once every 2 or 3 months, and then they'd sort of say, "Oh, well, I'll do most of my research sort of European," and do you know what I mean?
There doesn't seem to be any manager link. It's Bruno. I can't even pronounce this geezer's surname, to be fair, so I'm not even going to try. But yeah,
give it a go. Give it a go.
It's just not happening. Yeah, it's quite random, but yeah, fair play to him.
Yeah, decent little job, mate. Go on, Greg. Back to you, mate.
So just a couple of other things about your time at Reading as well. Like Jamie Curran, obviously he was smashing some goals.
What a player! He's still doing that now.
He's just played. I saw a T-shirt on the back. He had a shirt with 1,000 on the back. So he's just played his 1,000th game, and yeah, I mean, Curo must be 300 goals now, something like that, maybe more. He's just incredible, Curo. He was the
Legend,
best finisher of a ball I've ever played with. You give him the ball in and around the box, it's just it's almost like he took it so quickly, and you know, defenders were thinking they had a chance to get back because he'd wait for the ball to drop and he'd take it really quickly before they had a chance, and he was just amazing, Curo.
He's a Soccer Saturday video printer legend, mate. Every Saturday you see him pop up with a goal.
I remember that.
Yeah.
Great lad. He's a great lad as well, Curo.
Yeah, he is quality. Yeah, so he's playing for Enfield now. So still going.
Yeah.
How old is he, Phil? He's got 42 or 43, surely.
Let's have a look. He is 45.
I was going to say he's only probably 2 years younger than me, which is exactly right. Yeah, so I can't.
Yeah, and he's played 1,043 games and he scored 371 goals.
Yeah,
oh my Lord.
So
it's not a bad return, is it?
It's amazing.
Yeah, take it, wouldn't you?
Yeah, you would, wouldn't you?
Some career, the fellas.
In your first season there, Nicky, you lost in the playoffs. Was that to Walsall?
That's right. Yeah, we lost out to Walsall, and that was the season that, as I say, Pards came in, galvanised everyone, created a culture at the place, and everyone was linked to the success of that. And yeah, we lost out ultimately, but then we got promotion the following season. We got a draw last game of the season against Brentford, and you know, it was brilliant. Pards was the one that took Reading to the next level. There's no doubt about it.
Was that old Wembley?
No, it was a Millennium at that time.
Okay. Yeah.
That's my background behind me. That's the Reading fans there.
Yeah, disappointing, because I would have loved to play at the old sort of Reading, the old Wembley, the Twin Towers. Yeah, historical, wasn't it?
Yeah, big time. Yeah. I actually saw the video earlier of that that semi-final where Curran missed a penalty and you followed it in.
That's right. Yeah, I mean, I got injured at the start of that season, and yeah, I was out the whole season. I think I came back. It was the last pre-season friendly, and I got injured, and so I missed the whole season. Came back with, I think, 3 games to go of the actual season, and it looked like at that point we were going to get playoffs. And I was on the bench for the semi-final, second leg, and we were 1-0 down, and I managed to set one up and score the other. So it was incredible. It was voted the best game at the Medeski Stadium ever now. So amazing.
Yeah, some moment. Go on, Greg.
I've got to ask you about one guy that you played with, Baz Savage. So he went to our school and
lived on my road and all.
Yeah, as Terry said, he lived local to the school. And did he ever pull out the moonwalk?
Oh,
at Brighton, he did, didn't he?
I can tell you, Baz Savage. I played with Baz at as you say, Reading, but I also played with Baz.
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah, you played
at Brighton, and he's such a great character, such a peculiar man in lots of ways, but so nice with it. You know, he's so funny, and I remember just like one story. I've got hundreds with Baz, but I remember him being on the training ground at Brighton, and Dean White was the assistant, and Dean Wilkins was the manager. Ray Wilkins, his brother, and we started training, and for some reason Baz kept saying to Dean, "Where's Dean, Whitey?" And he was like, "What do you mean?" He goes, "Well, where's Dean?" And he kept saying, "What, you mean the gaffer?" So he said, "Yeah, Dean." He said, "He's the gaffer to you." He said, "Okay, but when's Dean coming out?" He said, "Baz, show some respect. He's called the gaffer to you." He said, "All right, but when's Dean coming out?" And then about 3 minutes later, he's gone, oh, there's Dean. He's coming now, Whitey. Do you know what I mean? And I don't know why he was like niggling Whitey, but it's just little things like that he used to do, quite peculiar, but he got away with it. And in the end, the lads loved him. He used to do his moonwalk celebration, didn't he? And
it become a big thing on Soccer AM, didn't it?
It did, you're right.
Yeah,
but, we went out on a night out to Brighton, and there was a nightclub in Brighton. I can't think at the moment what it's called. It will probably come to me. Oceana, I think it was called. Yeah. On the front, on the seafront, and in there they had an 80s room which had like the different colour square floors that light up. And one night. Oh my God! He had this Michael Jackson latex mask.
Oh God!
And believe it or not, one night a song came on, and he's gone off somewhere. He's come back. He's got this mask on, the hat on, and he cleared the whole floor. In fact, he started dancing, and everyone stepped back, thinking, "Oh, I can't dance around this geezer. He's killing me." Do you know what I mean? Because he was that good, and he did a whole Billie Jean. Routine on this floor, and it's just phenomenal dancer. He is.
Yeah, he was.
His moves are a joke, to be fair. I still baffled by how he can put studs on.
I've tried to connect with him a few times, but he's got no sort of social media presence. And and he's one player that I thought, you know what, I'd like to say hello, because we roomed together. And I remember bedding down one night, so about 10:30, watch the usual, do you know what I mean, Friends and Shooting Stars or whatever we used to watch in those days, and your usual Friday night. And I just about to go to bed, and he flicks the light on in the bathroom, and he goes in there, and I hear sort of groaning and grunting, and thinking, oh my God, what's Baz doing? I said, Baz, what are you doing, mate? So he said, I'm just going to do 100 press-ups. At 10:30 at night. That's what he wanted to do. He just felt like he needed to do some press ups, so he did 100 press ups and then came to bed.
What did you eat?
He's still playing now. I googled him before. He plays in some team in Reigate, doesn't he? Is it
South Park? Yeah.
Does he? In Reigate in Surrey?
Yeah, that ain't too far, is it, for you?
No, I shall go down.
Get down there, mate.
According to his Wikipedia, he came out of retirement August 2020 to play for this team, and he's playing for them now.
He was playing in Thailand before that.
Yeah, he was
the assistant gaffer.
Yeah, he did. Yeah, he went over there for a while. Yeah,
I know the assistant gaffer down there. I'll text him, see if he is actually there.
Well, let me know, because I will turn up and watch Baz, because I would love to say hello to Baz again. What a nice guy.
That's quality.
He was a deceptively good footballer as well.
Yeah, he was a good player.
Yeah, he was. But he just
at Brighton, he had quite a bit of success there, didn't he?
He did, yeah. And he played up front with me, and because he's got a big lump, and he was really unselfish. Such a nice, gentle-mannered man, Baz was, and he had not a nasty bone in his body. And he was a really good foil for me, because he was unselfish enough to let me take all the glory.
That's brilliant. Yeah, he was a good player actually, Baz. Yeah, you'll have to do that, Greg. Have to see if we can sort of.
I'm just gonna. I'm about to text him now, mate. So hopefully we'll get back to you before the end of the show.
That'd be class. If not, I've got, like, obviously my mum and dad live on the same road as his mum and dad. So if I ever bump into him again, because I used to see Baz quite a lot on the road when I go and see my mum and dad. So I've not bumped into him for a while, but if I ever did, if Greg can't make contact,
well, you won't miss him, will you? I mean,
no, exactly.
He came into training one day with his jeans on inside out, so his pocket linings were, because that's what him and his crew were doing at that time.
He was definitely a victim of the fashion. He was a fashion victim, Baz, wasn't he? For sure.
Yeah.
He was one of the first ones I saw with. You remember them? Like, they'd have the wrap on their car, which would sort of change colour depending on the angle you.
Yeah,
it was like purple or something, and then you'd walk at a certain angle, it'd go green.
That's right.
He always just I remember seeing it on the road. And like, what the fuck? I was fascinated by it, because I was sort of like early teenager sort of age, like 12, 13, and seeing that, I was like, whoa, that's unbelievable.
Yeah.
It was probably when he was playing at Brighton and that.
It probably was. Yeah, I think it was, and he wore like basketball boots, and he used to wear one red one green one. And I said, Baz, they come like that? He said, no, I had to buy 2 pairs and just
mix and match.
Yeah, unbelievable.
He used to be big into the garage scene, the rave scene, and he used to wear a black Michael Jackson, a black night glove in the rave, and he used to stick out. He used to clear dance floors wherever he used to go.
Yeah, he did. I've seen him do it, and he's incredible. Yeah. He did once as well. I can only verbally demonstrate it, but he played a fruit machine in a pub once as a robot, and he does this robotic dancing, and it's just phenomenal. It's just mesmerising. You just can't. Yeah. You just got to watch.
That's a brilliant story. excellent.
Yeah, that's class. So then, obviously, you said Pard's got you boys promotion, and then the next season you scored 17 goals, finished 4th, and got in the playoffs again.
Yeah, we missed out, unfortunately, to Wolves. I mean, amazing season. And I played up front on my own, and it really suited me because I could just do my own thing. I found I had space, and that's what I wanted. I could just drift from between fullbacks or drift between centre half and fullback, drift between the centre halves. And where it played really well into my hands is I was quick. So I was always looking for that direct ball over the top. And very often, if I could pull between two centre halves or between centre half and fullback, there was always that moment where, have you got him or have I got him? They didn't know that handover between. There's always that little element of indecision. And once you get that, and once the ball is played,
you're in.
Do you know what I mean? I was away. And because I was that quick, once I'd got away, if I stayed onside, I was probably the most offside player in EFL history. But
thank God you weren't VAR then, eh?
Yeah, I know. Yeah, but I probably would have got as many as I'd got against me, to be fair. Steve Coppell said it always evens itself out. But the amount of times I got away, scored, and the two centre halves are proper row. I said you got him. No, you know what I mean? And it was brilliant for me. I could just play on that really, really well.
Is that where you had Hughesy in behind you then?
Yeah, that was the year Hughesy played in behind, and he came in, and what a character Hughesy was. Brilliant in the dressing room, amazing engine. He could just run. And again, like Baz, I was fortunate. I played with so many players that were so selfless. They were quite happy to go, there you go, Foz, go on, you shoot. And I'm never shy of obliging there. I'd shoot from, I'd shoot from any angle. And Hughesy was just brilliant for me. And if I had to say one player that was the favourite player that I played up front with, Bob Taylor was brilliant. I love Bob. I played, with some amazing ones. Baz Savage we've mentioned, but Hughesy, he was the one that, do you know what? I love playing with him.
A good character off the field and all.
Oh, just unbelievable character off the field. I mean, he just, as I say, galvanized everyone, brought everyone in together, and he was special in the dressing room. He really was.
I heard you actually say in one of your recent interviews about him with Les, how everyone was sort of didn't want to ask him a lot of stuff, but Hughesy was first to the...
Hughesy was the one, yeah. I mean, and as I say, I told you, Les brought his helicopter in one day, and so everyone's going like, oh, can we have a fly in there? You're going to take us up, Les? So he said, yeah, I'll take him up. You know what I mean? I don't think he really wanted to, but do you know what I mean? But this is where Les is a really nice guy. The youth team were playing. Brendan Rodgers was the youth team manager at Reading, and the youth team were training, and they were training into the afternoon as well, and they finished at 4:30, 5 o'clock, something like that. And Les says, I'm not taking anyone up whilst all the youth team are training, just in case anything went wrong. I wouldn't want, you know what I mean? If I crash,
top class.
But Les wouldn't. We finished at about 1 o'clock, and Hughesy was the only player to stay around till 4:30 to have this little 10-minute trip in this helicopter and back down. But as I say, you know what? I said a lot about Les. I ain't going to take a chance with anyone.
That is superb, that.
Yeah, I mean, they were 16 to 18. They were kids, weren't they? And,
yeah,
you know what? Les thought, there's just no way.
That is class.
Fair play.
Fair play to Hughesy for hanging around and all.
Yeah, I mean, we were like,
lift.
yeah, next day we were like, Hughesy, did you wait? He went, yeah, waited. Yeah, 4:30. We were like, Hughesy, you are nuts. You're completely nuts. You know what I mean? I mean, the money Hughes on, he could probably paid 150 quid to someone to take him up in a helicopter if he would, but he wanted to go up in Les's one. It's unbelievable.
That must have been pretty cool as well. Just to say you've been in Les Ferdinand's helicopter, eh?
Yeah, I mean, that's Hughesy all over. Do you know what I mean? It's a story that Hughesy will just tell everyone forever.
Yeah, I bet. Yeah. And then your time come to an end at Reading, and you ended up moving on and going to Ipswich Town with Joe Royle. How did the was it contract come to an end and wanted pastures new, or? Yeah,
I mean, I wanted to stay really, and Steve Coppell was a bit uncertain. And I went to see Steve, and he's one of the nicest men, Steve, and I respect that man probably more than any other manager. And the one thing I say about Steve Coppell is when he spoke, I didn't always like what he was saying, but I could never argue with it. You could never think, you're being out of order. Dave Webb used to just kill us sometimes, you know what I mean? Cut us in half in terms of verbally. But Steve Coppell, even if I didn't like what he was saying in terms of, it was critical, it was personal, you know, I don't think you're working hard enough. I don't think you could never argue. He was a measured man. He chose his words carefully. And as a result, I admire him a lot. But it came to a point, I was coming to the end of my career. I struggled with a bit of a groin injury for that season. And I sort of said, look, contract wise, he said, look, Foz, I haven't seen enough yet. And again, that's the honesty from a manager. You think, okay, fair enough. You know, I can see that. I understand that. And I sort of said, well, look, you know, maybe the fact that I haven't got a contract is playing on my mind. Do you know what I mean? He said, but I can't give you a contract to make you play better. I've got to see it. And again, you can't argue with that, can you, as a player? No. And he's being honest. I said, okay, fine. And it just happened that they signed Leroy Lita and they signed Kevin Doyle, and it just looked like I was going to be surplus. And at 30, 31, 32, I didn't want to be a bit part player. Not when I've been at the team and been pivotal. You know, you almost feel that's a tough pill to swallow. You know, when you've been the main man, to that then come away from it. So I decided, you know what, Ipswich. Joe had tried to sign me a number of times, Joe Royal, and I thought, you know what, this possibly a time for a move.
Yeah, that's brilliant. Go on, Greg, over to you, mate.
You know, it was just some bits I read there, like Dave Kitson as well was flying at the time as well. I read that he was scoring quite a few goals. Was you injured then at the time?
Yeah, no, I played with Kits. That was the last season. I was injured for a part of it, and then I came back and I played with Kits. And Kits was just on fire, just scoring all the time, and I just couldn't get near. I couldn't get near sort of you know, a run of form, and at times I felt Kits was frustrating me because he was similar to me in terms of a greedy striker. He was doing well, playing well, taking shots when I'm thinking, you're going to square it, and he's taking a shot and scored. Can't argue with it.
Yeah.
So, you know, he was just having his moment. He was having his time, and I just wasn't. And as a result, it just naturally came to a conclusion. But it was an amicable move, and you know, do I regret it? No, I don't. I don't regret. Pretty much, I don't regret anything really. So it was a natural break. I mean, every partnership comes to an end at some point or another, and that was it. That was that one.
Yeah. Over to you, Matty.
I was just going to ask, wasn't that the trio that they had when they were in the Premier League? Lita, Kitson, and Doyle. Yeah, because they scored a lot of goals.
They did.
Isn't Kitson the secret footballer?
Well, they've rumoured it, but it's got his mark all over it because he was quite an elusive guy, and he was. I mean, you look at his social media; it's got Dave Kitson, public figure, and so that's what he calls himself. So the answer is I don't know. I've asked a number of pros and said, who is it, and no one seems to know. But it's. I wouldn't be surprised if it was Kitson.
Fair play.
Yeah, and then obviously when you moved over to Ipswich, there's a fella that I see that you played with who we knew from school, guy called Dean McDonald.
Yeah, Dean.
Centre forward.
Yeah,
tiny.
What was he? What was he like as a player? Because like when we grew up as a kid, like Greg, I think you was the same age group as him when you at Rutledge.
He was a year older than me, but the things that kid could do with a tennis ball, I mean, I could, yeah.
Because I was playing,
but he was unreal.
They used to call it the quad in our school, and it was like a square sort of area playground surrounded by buildings. Yeah. And we was only allowed to play with tennis balls in case you sort of smash windows and that. And we used to play football. It was about 30 aside as you do in the playground. And Dean, who was on the books at Arsenal at the time, he used to juggle this tennis ball and sort of catch it on his chest and just run around the playground, and he'd have like 30 kids chasing him trying to, and you just couldn't get it. He was so talented. Yeah. So just interested to sort of see what he was like, sort of from a professional point of view.
Yeah, I mean, he's a really nice kid, quite a quiet kid as I remember, and he wasn't overly vocal, but it was quite a strong dressing room. We had Jim Magilton, who was like, do you know what I mean? Oh, you know, he just never stopped talking. We had Kevin Horlock from Man City. We had a number of, we had Jason DeVos, a Canadian centre half.
Yeah, I remember him.
You know, so there were some strong characters in there. Myself in there as well was a strong character at the time. So it was really vocal. So I don't remember Dean being that vocal, but he played as a winger. It was Jamie Peters, who's I think was either Canadian or American, can't remember which, and he played one side and Dean played the other. But he was sort of in and out the team, but it was a really difficult time for Ipswich. They just had come off that period where they had that purple patch, with
Europe and everything.
Yeah, and then they were with they'd just come off the spell when they had Marcus Stewart playing for them and Darren Bent and people, people like that. Huh?
Was that when they finished 5th in the League One?
That's
season?
right. Yeah, they were just coming down towards that end of that sort of run, and it was a new transition. And Joe Roy was a lovely guy, really nice, real father figure, and I admire him. Another manager I really admire. And but it just wasn't. It was a time where the club was just unfortunately doing that little drop. Jim Magilton took over, and it didn't change a lot, unfortunately. So I enjoyed my time there, but it wasn't that long.
Yeah, Darren Curry as well, and Tony Curry's son.
Yeah, because he's just taken over at. He's just taken the role, the under-23 role at Sheffield United, I believe.
Oh, is he?
Yeah.
Oh, well, they'll probably love him there anyway through their old man.
That's right. Yeah, he's got that connection, hasn't he?
Yeah, he was a good player actually, Darren Curry.
Really good player. Yeah, I mean, he, by his own admission, he said if I could buy a can of pace from the shops, he said I'd be a Premier League player. I mean, his quality was unbelievable. We just didn't have that turn of pace. Yeah.
We could all do with that as well, boys. If he finds out where they're selling that.
Yeah, me too as well. Yeah.
I'm like dragging a fucking fridge freezer around when I'm running. Terrible. And then you was only there for the 1 year and then moved on to Hull City.
Yeah, Parky came in for me, and I went up there, and that was a really difficult stint, that was, because there was a real divide in the dressing room, and not only a divide sort of emotionally or in terms of the spirit of things. There was a big divide. It wasn't a north-south divide, but it was like a new group that came in with Parky, and then the old school, do you know what I mean, of Hull, almost the Hull legends, do you know what I mean? And not only was there that divide, there was also a divide in terms of the dressing room wasn't big enough to house everyone. So we were split between two dressing rooms. So one side was in one and one was in the other. And it just created such an uncomfortable, uneasy atmosphere. And as a result, we were just well below par. And Parky lost his job. Phil Brown came in and eventually turned it round. But it took a long time. And Dean Windass was one of the ones coming in that brought a lot of people together and changed the forms.
Yeah,
great character. Dino.
Quite a few strikers on their books then as well. Michael Bridges, John Parkin, yourself, Dean Windass.
Yeah. I mean,
Barmby as well.
And who?
Nick Barmby.
Yeah, Barnes. Yeah. I mean, Barnes.
I read the Romford Pele and all.
Yeah. I played. Yeah, that's when things started to change. When Dino was brought in, Dean Windass, and when Ray Parler was brought in, and it just sort of took a step up, and it just started to come together again. And it was just it was difficult. There's no doubt about it. I mean, I was phased out for a period, and it was a really challenging time in my career. Up until that point, I was in demand. I was wanted, and it's the first time where someone went, "Do you know what I mean? Really don't want you." Do you know what I mean? Because other than that, before that, I'd gone from one club to another, and people always wanted me. This is the time where I had to really dig deep and fight.
Yeah, go on, Craig.
You was mentioning then about like the club legends and stuff like that. Out of some of the players that I saw there, Ian Ashby. I mean, he was Hull through and through, and he played in quite a lot of the divisions with them and stuff like that.
Yeah, I mean, he was a strong character. Ash, he was the leader, he was the captain, and as I say, it was difficult. And Ash certainly was on one side, and there was a group of us on the other side. But do you know what? In the end, we managed to sort of come together, and it was no doubt about it. The relationship between the two sides was incredibly strained, and you can see how that just cannot be productive for a football team. you know, when players don't particularly like each other. There were clashes on the training ground regularly. Do you know what I mean? Really regularly. And you sort of think, how can a team move forward if they haven't got that togetherness about them? Do you know what I mean? And but it came good in the end, and I moved on eventually. They got promoted the following year, which is now a few clubs that when I leave them, they get promoted. And as a result, I've always said I'm a really good signing for every team, because once they've signed me, they've got to get rid of me, and then they'll go on and get promoted.
Just give him a year's deal.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's right. I mean, listen, there's 92 clubs. I could have had like a couple of months. I could have had a couple of months or 3 months or every single one of them, couldn't I?
Every January, people are coming in. Get him in. Short-term deal.
Yeah, exactly right. I would have. Yeah, as I say, it was scary. As I say, 3 clubs got promoted after I left, but there you go.
And then leaving Hull, you moved to Brighton. Was the location a big point on that? Like back down south?
It was a big. I got married that year, and you know, it was a big thing coming down. It was my local team. Do you know what I mean? Brighton is a great venue. The whole city is, it's sort of like London on sea, isn't it? It's like a mini London. It's so eclectic. There's so many different sort of styles in Brighton, and it was brilliant. I signed there, fell in love with it, and was lucky enough to captain the team, and scored my 200th career goal there, and just, you know what I mean, I loved every moment of it.
I see your T-shirt as well when you scored your 200.
Yeah, sorry, that's 200. I remember. I tell you what we did. We had a school a partnership scheme where normally when players do public appearances, they'll say, look, this Thursday, this player's going to this school, this player's going here, this player's going there. They would go and do an appearance, an hour, and then would come away and never go back. So they had an idea. One of the guys in the marketing department had an idea there where the player would be linked to a school, and they would go to that school every other Thursday, which was the same sort of, we had to do an appearance sort of every other Thursday, something like that, or every week or every other week. And we, instead of going to lots of different places, they put 27 players, that's how many squad there was, or 25, 27. All of those players they put with a school in and around the Sussex area. And they tried to get geographically these players closest to the schools where they lived or they were traveling to or from, and that. And they did that. And so every other week we used to go to these schools, and that meant that the school could build up a bit of a rapport with the player. The player knew what they were going to. It wasn't just a one-off thing, and it was a really successful thing. In fact, it won awards, and loads of other clubs rolled it out. And the reason why I bring it up is because I was coming towards my 200th goal. So the particular class I used to go into more than any other class, I said to them, right, guys, what I want you to do is, I'm coming towards my 200th goal. I want you to design a T-shirt that I can wear. So when I score it, I'm going to lift my top up and I'll display the T-shirt. And they all did designs, went home and did designs. And I chose that one. Sorry, that's 200. Someone came, one of the kids, I think he was 8 or 9, came up with that.
That's brilliant.
Yeah.
Do you know who he is?
I actually don't. You know what I should do, and it's bad that I don't. I have somewhere got the original design, because I brought all the designs home and went through them. And the next week I said, this is the one I'm going to use. And the lad came up and shook hands like you could do in those days, I suppose. But unfortunately though, that on one of them, the 200, someone mistook it for a Z and said, sorry, but that's zoo. So someone put a post in some of the paper saying Nicky Forster with the most cryptic message of the week or something like that, but it wasn't supposed to be.
That is brilliant. Great for that kid as well. What a moment as well to be at.
Yeah, do you know what? I did go back to the school, and I think I gave him the T-shirt, which was printed up. Yeah, I'm pretty sure I did.
Oh, that's brilliant. I'll have to see if we can find him on social media. And
well, I know the school was Felbridge Primary, just in East Grinstead, so I probably could find
local.
Yeah, it was for me, which is why they put me there, because it's not that far from home.
That's where I live.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Felbridge Primary was the school I was linked to for a year. Yeah,
that's quality. Go on, Greg, over to you, mate.
Mate, just quickly, just going back to your Reading. I know we've gone past that, but you put up a tweet the other week, and I commented on it, and I couldn't believe that it was an assist the pass that you done was unreal, but you got taken out on the halfway line.
Oh, that's Nottingham Forest away, wasn't it? Yeah, Scotty Murray. Scotty Murray scored. We won 1-0.
You put up the tweet, and I was like, "Oh my god, you nearly got chopped in half." And then I had a little look at the lineup for them, and I saw it was number 4, Des Walker.
Yeah, do you know what? When you said that, I thought, what's that, Des Walker? I don't remember. You know, sometimes I thought, do you know what? I don't remember that being Des Walker, but I looked at it and I thought he did try and smash me, and I bounced up, and where I got that pass from, I don't know. I think I put, didn't I? Who did I borrow that pass from?
Because that's what you put. And I looked up the players, mate. I looked up the team sheet, and I saw it was Des Walker, and I was like, I was horrified because I was like, dirty, bro. He nearly chopped you in half.
I know, yeah. But I mean, I did that. I played for England under 21s, and I can remember the players I played with. And I looked up the other day, and I found a website that had like the Toulon tournaments, which it was listed. And I looked up. I remember playing Brazil, and I remember I'm sure it was Juninho. So I looked up, and sure enough, they had the team sheet, and it was Juninho. And I thought, you know what? I remember him, and I thought he was special then. And I thought, oh my god. So and then I looked at some of the other teams, and we played against Angola. Didn't recognise any names on that team, but I'm sure that you'd be not be surprised about that. But then we played France, and I looked at their team sheet, and they had Roberto Pires played, and there was a couple of other names that I recognised, and I thought, you know what, unbelievable. At the time, I didn't know who Roberto Pires was, but he went on to be as big as he did. So.
Yeah, because at that time they'd have just been up and coming kids anyway, wouldn't they?
Correct. And it's not until you see that and sort of think, Jesus, I was on the same
you've actually
pictures. Roberto Pires, yeah, it's quite a big thing.
So you didn't know when you see Pires obviously playing for Arsenal, you didn't know. I played again. Do you know what? That didn't trigger it either.
No, I didn't.
All right.
Do you know what? Sometimes in life as well, and because you're in the moment, you don't think about things. I didn't take any of the programs from those games. Do you know what I mean? I should. Yeah. I think now and think in the dressing room there was probably a load of dress programs and on the table when you walk in for the game, and you know, with the teams and the little bits, just like a game program. And I should have picked one up on every single game. I mean, stupid, really. It would have meant nothing to anyone bar me. But it would have been that memento. But at the time, you're too cool to do things like that, aren't you? You know,
that would have been the same era as Trezeguet, Henry.
I think it was
massive
Trezeguet.
names.
I think when you said Trezeguet, I'm pretty sure that was the name that was on there as well. Henry definitely wasn't. It wasn't Henry, but just unbelievable, really.
Yeah, that's.
Was you ever want to swap shirts, take shirts or anything?
No, not a lot. There was the odd game. I mean, as I say, I was, I wasn't. I'm nowadays as well. I'm not that much of a sort of desperate to go and get that person's autograph or that person's. I mean, if I saw someone in an airport, I probably would be the one just to not sort of go up to them. My missus is the one that will go, I'm going up, and I'd say, babe, God, Jesus, do you have to? Come on. Go on, then get me an autograph as well. I'm one of them. So, no, I didn't. I tell a story where when I was at Reading, we played against Chelsea in the, I think it was the Coca-Cola Cup then, or whatever it was called, but it was the League Cup one night. And we played against them. And I tell you when it was, I think it was 98, I think it must have been. It would have been.
That would have been.
No, it wouldn't have been 98. It had been 2000. And when did France win the World Cup? 98 and when?
2000. 2002.
It must have been, because it was it got to be 2002, wasn't it?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
So it was
Worthington Cup.
Yeah, you're right. It was 2002. We played them at the Medeski, and Desai played. So I went out there straight away and said, look, can I have your shirt? And he said, yeah, but he obviously didn't want to be there. It was the first round or second round or something of the League Cup. And I remember he was a bit arrogant, but I suppose he's just won the World Cup and he's probably thinking, I don't want to be playing here on a Tuesday night. Do you know what I mean? But he got a smack in the face in the last minute. They won 1-0. A crap goal we give away, and I think Mutu scored, which is probably the only goal he ever scored for Chelsea, wasn't it? He got a smack and he cut his lip, and I remember as he come off, I said, "Can I have your shirt?" And he said, get off me." He said like that, and gone back in his dressing room. And I stood outside, and the kit man, I said, "Look, Desai's," I said, he said, "You can have my shirt." So he said, "I'll go in and ask." And he come back in the end with it. And I said, "Look, does he want mine?" And he said, "No." He said, "He don't want yours." So I thought, you know what? And then to this day, I thought, do you know what? I've got Desai's shirt. It's been in a bag in my loft ever since, because it means nothing to me because of just the way it came about. I wish I'd gone and got John Terry's, because John Terry was as good as gold throughout the whole game. He was brilliant.
Mad, isn't it? Like things that most fans would never sort of realise, like how certain players would behave and that. It only takes a little bit
as well. When I become a manager as well, I was at Brentford as a manager towards from sort of January, February time all the way to the end of the season. And every single manager I came up against, we played with, against, we either went in their office after a game or they come in ours at Brentford. And it's funny because some that I was looking forward to, really disappointed, and others that I was thinking, do you know what a nice guy is. Peter Reid, such a nice man. Do you know what I mean? Absolutely. Other than not bringing down Maradona on the halfway line, just a fine man.
Couldn't catch him.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, but what a really nice man. But there are others, unfortunately, that disappointed.
Yeah, it's mad, isn't it? Really. And then so you spent 3 years at Brighton, and then Gus Poyet came in, and then sort of spelled the end of your time there. What was the sort of feeling around that at the time for you? Because I've heard that sort of, like we've said with other managers, and we've had other players on that have said honesty is the best policy. He'd rather know. Did it sort of cut deep that he wasn't as honest as some of the others have been with you?
Yeah, I mean, that's the problem I had with Gus, and the disappointment was for me is I was top scorer. I'd scored by end of January when sort of Gus came in. I'd scored 16 goals, something like that. Do you know what I mean? And I remember going to say to Gus and saying, "Look, Gus, what's the situation? Contracts?" He said, "There's no contracts at the moment." And I understand that, because he said, "We don't know what league we're going to be in. We could get relegated, or we could stay in League One. We could be in League Two." So I said, "Okay, fine." So he come out onto the training ground following day. He said, "I don't want anyone knocking on my door. No contracts are going to be offered until we know where we are. Okay, so don't everyone think about it." So everyone was like, "Okay, fair enough." And I was absolutely fine. And then a week later, he signed one of the lads signed a contract. Do you know what I mean? So I went and knocked on his door, which is, as I say, you can be a pain in the arse sometimes. And I said, "Gaffer, look, don't mean to do this, but I'm not a kid. I'm 32 years old, 33 years old." I said, "I've got 4 months left on my contract. You might not care that I've got a wife and kids at home and that, but that and I understand football, but listen, just give me an idea of where you're with me, because I'm not quite sure. And wherever it is, I can deal with it. Do you know what I mean? You can say to me," and I said, "Gaffer, you can say, Foz, I'd like to keep you, but I can't do anything at the moment. You can say, Foz, I'm definitely not going to keep you, but I need you," and that would have been fine. Or you can say, "Foz, I'm not too sure because of your age, because of the way you're playing." You could have said any of them, and I would have carried on playing for you, because I love the club. I respect you, Gus Poyet. And he said, "No." He said, "No, I've got nothing." So I said, "Okay." So I left it a couple of weeks, and then I said to him, "Look, Gus, you're not signalling any sort of intent with me. I'm not a kid, as I say. Am I allowed to look around to see what other clubs there are?" He said, "Yeah, if you want to look around, you can look around." So I said, "Okay, fine." So that sort of signaled to me his intent. And my agent then put out on Sky Sports, Nicky Forster allowed to, talk to other clubs with a view to leaving Brighton, and he just went ballistic. He didn't shout at me, but I remember it was a Saturday morning, and we were meeting at the coach at Clackett Lane Services on the M25, and we were going to play Leyton Orient. And as I was walking along, I walked up with 2 other lads, and he said morning to one of the lads. He went morning to the other one. He said, you can go home. I'll see you tomorrow at the training ground, 9 o'clock. So that was the Sunday. Went in Sunday, and Gaffer's not in today. I said, "Well, he's asked me to come in and meet him." He said, "Well, he's not in today." I said, "Okay." So I've driven down for a meeting though. He said, "Well, he ain't in today. Come back tomorrow."
Unbelievable.
I know. And then he just started playing games like that. He had me running up and down the side of the pitch whilst the players were all playing and training and playing five-a-sides, and just beasted me. Sports scientist, he used to come to me, and he was actually younger than I was at the time. He was about 29, 30, 31, and I was 32. And he said, Foz, I'm sorry, I've got to do this to you. And I said, yeah, look, Stretch, it's okay. Listen, I understand what football's about. And in the end, I left on deadline day, last Thursday of March, the March deadline, and went to Charlton. And the day I left, I went over to Gus after training. I said, Gus, can I have a chat? And he said, yeah, if you want to chat. And he started walking. I said, no, can we sit down? It was a lovely sunny day, March day. So the sun was out and it was a nice warm day. I said, can we sit down and just have 10 minutes? And I took my shoes off and I said, Gus, what was the situation? Talk to me. And he said, Foz, he said, it was just your age. He said, it was your age, which I weren't sure about. I said, Gus, you could have said that to me.
Yeah.
And I would have still played for you, and I would have still scored a goal for you, and I would have, you know, and I could have left at the end, and it didn't have to be this way. And he said, well, I couldn't take that chance. I couldn't be honest with you because you might have kicked off. And I said, Gus, I laid it out. I told you. And I said, look, Gus, it's not what you did, it's the way you did it. And that was, and we shook hands, and I've seen him a number of times. I've texted him a few times. And the nice thing is that I don't hold any, grudge, and we're on good terms. But as I say, I just didn't like the way he did it.
Well, to apologise for you, you'll have to text him and get him on here for us. Well, make it up to me, Gus.
Yeah.
Go on, Greg.
Just on that, there's a few players I saw that at the time, young Ashley Barnes.
Yeah, well, Ash came in the day after I left. So he said, we bought Ashley Barnes. He's going to play. You won't play. So you need to go.
And Lewis Dunk?
Dunky was there when I played, yeah. So Dunky was a youth team player. Really good friends with my lad Jake. So they were both.
Was he there as well?
Yeah, so Jake was there as well, which was a shame, really, because for him to witness me getting sort of treated in that way was not very nice.
Did you ever play in the same team?
No, I think he was on the bench one day I played. Unfortunately, he didn't get on, or I got taken off and he got on. I can't remember. But yeah, I think we were on the bench once.
That would have been class, wouldn't it?
Yeah, I know. Yeah. I think he's still the youngest player to start for Brighton or score for Brighton. I can't remember which one he's got.
Didn't affect him then, like what will happen between you and Gus and whatnot?
No, Gus loved him, and to be fair, Gus was really good like that in terms he didn't let my situation with Gus affect Jake's situation, because I was concerned about that.
Yeah,
naturally, And then, like you said, when you left, they moved on to Charlton, back with Parky as well.
Yeah, Parky. I mean, I remember they were towards the top of the league and flying they were, and he just said, bring you in for a bit of experience, the last push, and we got into the playoffs and we played Swindon, and Charlie Austin was on fire for Swindon. It was a really good, I think it was a 1-1 game. We drew 1-1 at their place and brought them back to the Valley, and I'm sure we went 2-0 up. And then they equalised. 2 terrible goals we gave away, equalised. It went through to penalties. Nicky Bailey, who was the captain, Parky was brilliant. He 2 weeks before the end of the season and during the playoffs, whilst we were training, he put goals out on the pitch. And after every training session, he split them into groups of 5, and you went over and took 3 penalties. Each player took 3 penalties. So I'd take a penalty, then another one.
I remember this. I know when that was.
Yeah. And to get everyone used to it, and we had 4 keepers in, and there was sometimes he got even the youth team behind the goal to sort of try and rib the players and to try and create that pressure scenario. And it was a really good thing. But Nicky Bailey, and he slammed every single penalty into the top right corner, just slammed it. And I said, Bales, he said, great pen, mate. But I said, the moment you miss, it ends up in row Z. There's no room for error. And he was like, no. And the only one he missed was that one. And out of 10 penalties, that was the only one that's missed. And he was distraught. He was utterly distraught. And he did put it in row Z or something. He went sky high. Do you know what I mean?
You got in his head, that's why.
Yeah, it's probably my fault. Yeah. Did they get promoted the following season? Yeah.
Funny enough, Nicky's actually from the same area as me, and
is it Barnet way?
No, that's where he's from. Roehampton, well, Putney. That's where he's from originally.
Yeah, that's right. He said.
I remember, funny enough, nothing to do with actually Nicky. Well, the story about Nicky, but I was in a pub in Putney not that long ago, and I worked round the corner from this pub, and there were some Charlton fans in there, and we got talking about Nicky. They haven't forgiven him for that. This geezer was like,
really
calling him all sorts of expletives. Like, come on, mate, it's a bit strong. Like,
because I tell you what, he did not play well from that season.
He was captain, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was, and he scored some vital goals. He really did.
He was in the Sutton first team when I was in the youth and reserves for Sutton, and he then got his move into the Football League, like with Barnet and that, and then from then he just kicked on Southend.
Borough.
Then up to Borough, and he was immense for Charlton. Like that, that would have obviously tarnished, as Matty's saying, like some people's views on him. But I mean, he was ridiculous. Like made him got himself into the position where he was captain and everything. He was coming from non-league.
Just in the time I was there, he scored some really good goals. He was a good player.
I've never understood that about full-grown men. Like, you must have seen football from like boy to man, and someone misses like one penalty, and you. What about all the other stuff he did?
Yeah, you've got to get over. You've got to get over
that. Surely,
and listen, he hasn't stepped up there, and meant to miss as he's given it his all. And you look at the character, how he played. He was a leader on the pitch, so he gave everything he got. And the other thing is, you know, in some ways, what you're saying is, if he hadn't have put himself up there and said, "No, I'm not going to take one," he'd still been a legend. How ironic is that? Isn't it? You know what I mean? And yet, as a manager, when you say, right, who wants a penalty? You don't want 11 people go, "Oh, I don't want one."
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You want people going, "I'll have one, Gaffer. I'll have one. I'll have one." You know what I mean? You want.
He's got that armband on. He's stepping up. And saying, I'll take it by the scruff of the neck, and he's just missed. That's it.
Correct.
It was the same with England. Like you had the '98 World Cup when the likes of David Batty missed, and there were some big names. David Batty was actually 8th or 9th on the list.
I mean,
big names that didn't fancy it.
That's what I mean. I mean, Batty, let's be honest, if we picked our 5 penalty takers at that time, you wouldn't put Batty in the top 5.
He'd be behind the fucking goalkeeper.
People that bottled it,
I wouldn't want Southgate taking a penalty either. I mean, his penalty was awful, wasn't it? He just didn't look confident at all, did he?
But again, he showed the bollocks because he was ahead of like other players that didn't fancy it. They're like,
it's the same with the women in the FA in the World Cup. Steph Houghton, didn't she? Yeah. She misstepped up, and do you know what I mean? To criticise her, I mean, she's our leader, wasn't she? She was an absolute warrior, wasn't she?
Yeah, quality. Yeah, 100%, mate. Sorry, Greg, go on, mate.
There's just another player. He would have obviously been young. It's John Joe Shelby.
Yeah, John Joe was there. Yeah, I mean, he was a special, really young boy then. Do you know what I mean? And but he was a good player even then, and you could just tell he had a manner about him on the pitch that everything came quite easily. You look at him; he's quite almost lethargic in his style, isn't he? Sort of wanders around, and he's got a rangy run. And you know, I mean, how many Premier League games has he played now? I mean, just hundreds.
Quite a lot,
I mean, you look at his teams. Where was he? Swansea, Liverpool, Newcastle. Just played huge amount of games.
Yeah, because you had him at Liverpool, didn't you, Greg? Yeah, I forgot you.
I really liked him, mate.
Greg loves him. Greg loves him. Yeah,
I do like him. I think he's a quality player, but I think obviously, as you say, I think a bit like how Pogba gets labelled, like he struts around and all this. But sometimes that's just how players are. They're naturally that good.
Berbatov was the same.
I was just about to say Glenn Murray at Brighton. Everyone thought Glenn Murray, come on, Muzzer, you got another gear. He looks like he's rolling around in first or second gear, but he wasn't. He was trying hard, but it's just his style gave you the impression. Berbatov, I mean, I think Berbatov was in first or second gear, but Berbatov just was, just fabulously talented. But you know, I don't think these guys are deliberately not trying, but they do give an impression that they could do more, which is frustrating for a fan because and yet Glenn Murray, you'd see Glenn Murray, he was the same. I sort of called him a poor man's Berbatov, which is unfair to him because he's now scored so many goals. But
great goal scorer.
Yeah. But I looked at him and he was targeted and labelled as a lazy player, and yet in the running and all the stats and things like that, he weren't. He was up with everyone. you know what I mean? But he just looked like quite sort of lethargic in his style.
The boys say it about me. They say I don't put a shift in. It's just because I'm that slow. I look like I'm not. I'm putting it in.
And Leon McKenzie as well, Nicky.
Yeah, Leon. I didn't.
Everyone said
Leon was injured quite a bit. There was a few players on the injury table and the treatment table when I was there. Leon was one of them. Didn't play much, but you know, really good character. I mean, some of the stuff he's doing now. I mean, he does really well for. You know, I mean, he's boxing and so forth, but in terms of the mental health stuff is brilliant as well.
He's helped out one of our mates as such, hasn't he? Quite a bit.
Yeah, my manager, my football manager.
Yeah, he's a good guy. Doing good stuff.
Top man, Leon. And then after your loan expired at Charlton, obviously he was out of contract at Brighton. You moved on back to Brentford.
Yeah.
How did that sort of come about? Did they sort of tap you up while you was at Charlton? Did you know?
No, they came in. They came in for me. They just came in for me, and I decided there was a possibility of going to staying at Charlton, but it just didn't materialise for a while. Charlton were up in the air. Didn't know whether Parky was going to stay, but Andy Scott came in for me. And it just felt sort of right. But unfortunately, I just couldn't find the form. Just whether the years had caught up with me, games body had caught up with me. I felt good enough. I felt like I could perform. I didn't feel like too stiff or like I was carrying injuries. I felt okay, but I just.
Had you lost a yard or?
I don't know. I mean, I just couldn't quite get whether it was a style of play as well that was slightly not fitting for me, but I just couldn't turn it into really good performances. And unfortunately, he lost his job, and that allowed me to, being the most senior player at the club, to take over and have a great experience as a manager.
Yeah, go on, Greg.
Just before you became manager, I read up. Did you go on like a good cup run and played Everton?
Yeah, we did.
Did you play in that game?
I was sub in that game. Came on, I think, for the last bit, but yeah, it was amazing game at Griffin Park, and
beat them on penalties or something.
Yeah, that's right. You know, it was an incredible experience. But just beaten right at the death on penalties. But yeah, I mean, there were some really good games in that season, but unfortunately, Andy Scott lost his job. He had Terry Bullivant as well as his assistant, who just an absolute knowledge of the game, but it just wasn't to be. And but as I say, it just gave me the opportunity. We were doing really well cup competitions, but just not doing well enough in the league, struggling at the bottom of the league.
You played against some players that day, mate. I've got the line up there: like Leighton Baines, Jagielka, Distan, Neville, Coleman, Arteta, Fellaini, Yakubu, Beckford.
Probably better than our team on the day.
Was you player manager or just manager?
No, I was a player then. That was when Andy Scott was manager.
When you took over from Andy Scott, it was on a temporary basis at first. Was you playing as well, or did you just go all in on the management?
Yeah, no, I was a player manager, but I just said straight away, I won't. They said, look, what is your intention? They almost sort of preempted it and said, look, what's your intention if you take over as a player manager? I mean, it was only 3 games, so I didn't play myself for the 3 games. To be honest with you, Gary Alexander was playing well. Charlie McDonald was playing well up front. They were the first choice pairing anyway. Any manager coming in, including myself, would have said they're the 2 boys to play. So I couldn't play myself. But we had 3 games, myself and Mark Warburton, who's now current QPR manager.
I thought that
we had 3 games. I think we won 3 games. One of them was the cup semi-final, area final for the Johnson's Paint against Exeter. We won that 3-1 away from home, and so we were going to Wembley. And they said, look, if we give it to you to the end of the season, what's your plans? What's your views? And I said, well, look, if you're going to give it to me to the end of the season, from March to the end of the season, I'll call it a day. That's a natural time for me to retire. So I made the announcement straight away, so I could just concentrate all in with management.
Yeah. Again, over to you, Greg.
Yeah, no, so it's just on that. Like, so you went on to win that, didn't you? 1-0. Or did you?
Final.
You lost 1-0. Sorry, you lost it.
No. Got over it until I got over it until you just brought it up again.
Sorry. I read it wrong. I'm sorry. But there's a couple of players I saw in the squad then. It's Jeff Schlupp.
Jeff Schlupp, yeah, we signed Jeff Schlupp from Leicester and brought him in really quick, and he was excellent, really good, fantastic young lad, and sharpened up training. We made a number of signings, and they all sharpened the whole place up, shook the place up a little bit, and just gave it a fresh, a bit of a sort of a breath of fresh air, and results were instant. They really were.
And one of your favourites, Till, Alex McCarthy.
Oh yeah. Did you bring Tomáš Řepka in, or was he already there?
No, Tomáš was already in there. Really good player, really cultured player. Yeah, he played the sitting role, and he was just excellent, just really good on the ball, moved the ball, and he was fantastic for us.
Yeah, he done brilliant at Brentford. He did. And what was that experience like as well, managing at Wembley? Like, because obviously it's a complete different ball game to being a player in that situation.
Yeah, I mean, it's just, again, it was slightly surreal, and sometimes in life you just need to sometimes take a step back out of the moment, and go, okay, enjoy this, because this ain't going to last more than sort of 4 or 5 hours in total, and your chances are you'll never get this again. And that really was it. But I enjoyed it, other than the fact that we obviously lost the game, so that was disappointing. We didn't get the celebration. It was tough going to see and seeing them at the end. We went up and collected a runner-up medal. They then went and got the actual trophy. So that was tough. But in terms of the experience, it was just incredible. We didn't play particularly well. We froze on the day a little bit. Jeff Schlupp should have scored, ran round and hit the post from a very narrow angle when he should have actually scored. It was an easier opportunity to score rather than to miss, but it was just that little bit of inexperience on the day cost us. They had been there the previous year, I think, and lost 1-0, so they'd come back. That's 2 years in a row Carlisle got there, and they were successful that year against us, sadly.
Yeah. Again, you, Greg, mate, go on.
Yeah. Did like experiences like what you had with Gus and that, and obviously other managers as well, did that help you in the short stint that you had with regards to the players you had at the time?
Yeah, I tried not to bluff. I tried to sort of tell players exactly where I felt I was with them in the nicest possible way I could. Sometimes that was a harsh truth. I just don't feel like that you're as good as this player that's playing in your position at the moment. But I tried always to be honest, try and always be fair. And they don't like it, players, because ultimately they're not getting what they want, which is a starting jersey. But yeah, I mean, I certainly try and give that honesty to anyone that I'm coaching. And listen, I run a business now, and I try and do that to staff as well.
Yeah. And then when that season came to an end, did they make it clear to you that like you weren't going to be the manager that they went with, or
they allowed me to pitch for the job, but it soon became clear that what they were looking for wasn't me with an inexperienced background. The assistant that was with me, to be honest with you, he was pretty instrumental as well in the change of fortune, and he wanted to go for it individually. So it made it very difficult. Neither of us were successful. It turned out to be fairly apparent that it wasn't going to be me.
Yeah, it's a shame. And then obviously you went on and played in non-league as well. You went on to play for Lingfield and Dover, and then also managed Dover and Staines.
Yeah.
Is that sort of chapter of your career sort of closed now on the management side?
Yeah, I mean, I managed at Dover, and it was a good job. And we were doing really well. We were third in the league. We were running away with it with the two above us, who were in touching distance within 1 or 2 points. And then over Christmas and New Year, in that level of football, what you do is you play. You play the teams geographically closest to you, so there's not a huge amount of travelling over Christmas and New Year. So we played Tunbridge twice in about 5-6 days. We lost at home 1-0 last kick of the game, and we lost away last kick of the game 1-0.
My cousin's their manager.
Sorry?
My cousin's their manager. Tunbridge Angels, Steve McKinnon.
Yeah, and they and they were Tommy Warrilow, I think, was manager then. But we,
Right.
and as a result, we had a number of injuries. We had a few players out with illness, and there was loss of form. There's no doubt about it. And we had a run of 4 games. So with 4 games, straight defeats. And what that did, we were still third in the league, but it just meant the pack below us was catching us back up again. And I thought, okay, fine. Listen, 4 games without a win is not great, obviously, but I still pitch us as getting in the playoffs, which is what the target was at the start of the season. And the manager sacked me. He said, he put me on gardening leave. He said, your service is no longer required.
Wow.
So brought someone in 24 hours later. So they'd obviously been tapped up. And I carried on gardening leave until they actually fired me, and I had to take them to a tribunal. And I do you know what? The whole thing made me think, if this is management, I'm not sure I want it. Do you know what I mean? If I was third from the bottom, I'd have accepted getting the sack, underachieving. But to be sacked when you're third from top, I thought, no, do you know what? This is not for me. I went back in at Staines, which is a much better club in terms of it was a much softer feel to the club. It wasn't such a hard edge to the club, and I enjoyed my time there. But I came out of that one as well, and I thought, do you know what? This isn't for me. And I don't look back, and I would never go back as a manager, no matter who offered me a job.
I don't blame you. It's the nature of that business, isn't it? It's not. There's very few that sort of can stick around at any given club for a long period of time, regardless of.
It goes in hand with what I said earlier on, is that isn't my passion. The actual game itself, student of the game, is not my passion. My passion is what I do now. And you know what? If you're not passionate about something, no matter how much people offer you and where you're going to go, if you're not passionate about it, you get found out. Do you know what I mean? So, you know, in the same way, a young lad trying to be a professional footballer, if they don't really want it, they ain't going to last for long.
Yeah, no, it's true, mate. And then obviously it brings us up to what we spoke about with what you're doing now. But to sort of tie everything together, I just got a list of a few questions just to sort of based on your whole career. So
go for it.
First one's first. Is best player you ever played with?
Peter Ndlovu.
Oh, Peter. Fair play. Nuddy. Best player you played against?
John Terry.
Really?
Yeah, it was good.
Was he a young'un and all at the time?
Yeah, he was. Yeah, youngster. Yeah, and do you know what? I'm older than him probably by I don't know how many years I'm older than him by, but I mean he kept calling me. He was calling me Fozzy on the pitch. I was thinking, I don't even know you. Do you know what I mean? I knew who he was because he was a leader, and do you know what I mean? We just knew who he was. So he was still quite high profile at that time, but he was chatting to me, and I remember throwing him a dummy and sort of getting away from him, and he come back and tackle me. He said, "Foz, I thought you'd done me then." Do you know what I mean? I thought that's quite a nice thing for a Premier League player to chat to someone and fair play, you've done me there. Do you know what I mean? And I think that and Dessau, he couldn't do that. He couldn't switch off.
Yeah, that's brilliant. Again, it's a side you don't hear of players like that, you know.
No, and do you know what? I thought, do you know what? I don't know. Again, Terry, we've talked about sort of Marmite, haven't we, a lot? And some people love Terry and some people hate him. But do you know what? I'd rather him on my team than not. He was brilliant. He's just put everything on the line. He really did.
Well, he's one of them. Chelsea fans love him. Everyone else hates him because of that. He was one of them.
And that you're right. That's the reason why. Yeah.
Yeah.
Top draw.
Most underrated player you ever played with?
I think James Harper at Reading. Him and Steve Sidwell when they played Sidders. They both were brilliant. Had brilliant engines in that Reading team. They were both superbly physically specimens, and they were excellent in that department. But they were underrated as players. And I mean, Sidders went on and has had a great career. He went from Reading to Chelsea. But those two boys were, on the face of it, didn't look like on the names on the team sheet probably wouldn't scare you, but when they're on the pitch, Jesus, you couldn't get near them.
Class.
Is he still at Brighton coaching?
He does do some coaching there. Yeah, I saw him today actually. Funnily enough, on a bike ride that we bumped into each other. So yeah, he does coaching at Brighton. Yeah.
Didn't fall off, did you?
No, not today.
Bumped into each other.
Not today.
Who's the worst trainer?
High tech.
It's got to be John Parkin, isn't it?
Yeah, I think Parky possibly might go down as the worst trainer. Yeah, I was just thinking who it was. I've seen loads of players, funnily enough, who are brilliant trainers, but can't take it into a game. And Mickey Adams used to call them training ground internationals, and it sums them up. Do you know what I mean? On training, they look $1 million. You put them in front of the crowd, and they just can't do it. So Parky, yeah, but Parky was a really and carried on playing much longer than people gave him credit for, but he was a really good player, actually, technically good player, better than people thought he was. And he had a really purple patch at Cardiff. Yeah, Parky is up there for sure.
And I always will despise him for what he done at Preston against Leeds. We were, I think, 4-1 up or 4-2 up at half time. And he scored 4 goals in the second half and beat 6-4.
Oh, wow.
He was lethal at Preston and all.
Yeah, he was. Yeah,
he looks like he should permanently have a pint in his hand.
He
looks
does.
like the guy at the bar, doesn't he?
Yeah, he used to go home every night and go to the pub. But he was a brilliant character, and he was so good for the dressing room. You know,
likes a bath and all, doesn't he, Nicky?
Funny guy. Yeah. I got in his bath once, as everyone knows, and he threw a turd in it.
Size of a Coke can. That's what killed me. The size of a Coke can.
Yeah, you wouldn't
Oh,
I got out the bath.
Yeah, I bet. Who was the hardest player you played with?
Played against.
With. We do both, but yeah, with.
Against one of the tough ones. He seemed like an absolute nutter. He grabbed me around the throat once. Was the fullback at West Ham? Was it Řepka?
Tomáš Řepka.
Oh my God! He just wanted to fight every single minute, every single minute of the game. He just wanted. He had that sort of crazy-eyed maniac on it all the time, didn't he? Do you know what I mean?
He was mad, wasn't he?
He was Czech Republic, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was. Yeah. And he, as I say, I remember him grabbing me. I tried to get his hand off my throat, and I couldn't even move it. Someone I can't remember. I was at Reading at the time, so Parky probably had to come and say, "Could you please let him go?" I needed someone to help me. But in terms of the hardest player, well, I don't know. In terms of physically fighting tough, I've no idea. In terms of one of the dirtiest and hardest players was Martin Granger, and I played with him at Brentford and at Birmingham, and he was just. I mean, talk about commitment with a tackle. He went in at 110%, and if he hurt people, he hurt them. That was just this sort of.
Ain't you Martin Granger?
Yeah, I was going to say you got mistaken for him, didn't you, on a night out?
Oh, I see. Yeah, I'm with you now, guys. Yeah, I did. Yeah, and he had me up. In fact, funnily enough, he had me up by the throat as well. Yeah.
Oh God. Who was the biggest diva?
Paul Furlong. I tell you what, Paul Furlong was one of the best players I've ever seen play, and but you just didn't get him to play so much, because if there was something wrong, like a racehorse, the slightest niggle, Furs would say, "Can't play today." And Furs had to be 100% right. I mean, I remember watching him in training once on a Friday, and he was, oh my God, just on a different plane to everyone else. I'm almost thinking, Jesus, I'm looking forward to seeing Furs tomorrow. You'll score tomorrow, Furs. Came in, went up to the manager. Knee's not quite right, calf's not. Something weren't quite right. Ruled himself out. Unbelievable. But
ruled himself
one
out.
of those players, and it's not me being critical of Furs, because I really like Furs. I love Furs a lot. But he just was one of those players, unless he was 100% bang on, he weren't going out.
As the manager getting on, he's like, "Come on, mate, you're all right."
I know. Trevor used to be like, "Fuzz, you know, you were brilliant yesterday." It must have been really frustrating for Trevor Francis.
Oh, I bet, yeah. Who was a funny man?
Glenn Little at Reading. Blakey, yeah, and just so funny. His stories were really funny. He was a genuinely funny man. Never stopped talking. And another one was the goalkeeper coach at Charlton, Andy Woodman, who went with Pards everywhere he went. He told a good story as well.
Yeah, I've seen him interviewed recently as well, Woody. I think
he did a podcast as well, which I did recently as well.
Yeah, he did. Yeah, I've actually crossed paths with Glenn Little as well before, because I think he's a Wimbledon boy. Actually, I think he's from Wimbledon.
Yeah.
And I used to play golf at London Scottish Golf Club, Wimbledon Common.
Yeah.
And he knew a few fellas there, and I was only young at the time. I was only about 14, 15, and they done like a pro-am down there.
Yeah.
And they had like some pro golfers and some pro football players and boxers and that. And he played in the 4-ball in front of us, and we'd often sort of bump into him. And he was a right character, like really funny fella.
Yeah, he is really good.
Good golfer and all.
Yeah, I don't know about that, but he's a funny boy, that's for sure.
Yeah, he's a character. Which manager was the best in training? Like when they took part, like
Trevor Francis, by a million miles, just did things in terms of just unbelievable. Just and as I say, probably nearly close to 50 at that time, and just the things he could still do with a football was just
really.
I mean, it'd be sort of. I remember being in the corner, trapped in, and suddenly he whipped the ball in. And us forwards were just standing like not on our heels. Do you know what I mean? He said, "Well, why have you not reacted?" And we were like, "Jesus, we didn't even know that you could get a ball in from there." Do you know what I mean? We were, you know, and he was just special even then.
You see why he's the first £1 million player then?
Yeah. I tell you what, as well, when I was at Brentford first time round, when Webby was manager, on a Thursday he used to bring in. I think the guy's name was Thompson. Dave Thompson, was he QPR player? And Stan Bowles, who's QPR. Yeah, they both lived sort of in and around the area, and they came in and trained with us. So Stan Bowles was cool as well.
That's quality. And I don't know if you sort of come across this, the initiations at the time with the singing. Who was the best singer?
There was a number of people that you couldn't get them off. In the end, they used to get on your tits because you couldn't get them off, and they wanted to do a second song and a third song, and it turned into a bit of a concert. And you just, you know, what I mean?
Like Kyle.
But Andy Hughes was a good character. He used to sing, and he couldn't sing very well, but he loved it, and he had all the moves, and he started doing some dancing moves to it as well. So in the restaurant, in and around everyone who were actually dining, because we shared this restaurant when he did his initiation with actually the diners, he actually not only sung a terrible song but started dancing as well. It was almost like a cabaret act. It was dreadful but brilliant at the same time.
Oh, Ten Dog, what a ledge. And this one you can sort of take however you want, but biggest dick you ever played with?
I didn't like Muscat. I just thought he went around trying to hurt people. I didn't like that. Do you know what I mean? So, you know, but having said that, I played with Ben Thatcher when we played for England under 21s, and he was a brilliant lad. So, but he had sort of a name for himself as doing that, didn't he? I mean,
Pedro Mendes.
Yeah, he smashed the guy, didn't he? But yeah, Muscat for me was one I just thought, you know what, I'm going to stay away from him today.
He was an horrible bastard on the pitch.
Yeah, he did. He tried to hurt people. Do you know what I mean?
100%. And last one, who are your like closest mates in the game, and who can you get any of them on for us?
Well, Adi Williams was my best mate, ex-Welsh international, and
defender.
Yeah, so Adi's still my best mate now. So he is. But do you know what? I speak to. Football's a funny little world. As I say, we don't have to phone each other up every now and then. And I had two players ring me. Tommy Elphick rung me, the ex-Bournemouth, and he's now at Huddersfield, and he was at Aston Villa, the centre half. He rung me this week. And I spoke to Andy Hughes this week, another one that I spoke of tonight. And I haven't spoken to him for probably 2 or 3 years, and we phoned up and we reminisce like we have tonight on similar stories that I've shared with you. So you know what, you don't have to speak to them a lot for them still to be good friends, and
that's a sign of good mates and all.
Yeah, it is. You know, it's just a sign of a really good friend that you don't ever have to ring them and speak to them.
The best mates, the ones you don't have to talk to.
Yeah, that's right. So listen, I'm sure I will pass it on. I'm sure someone will be on to follow me.
That's superb. And yeah, have any of you boys got anything else you wanted to bring up?
No, mate.
No. Just thanks, Nicky. That's Yeah, brilliant, mate.
That was class, and wish your boy Jake all the best as well, and hopefully Charlton get it done this year, mate.
Yeah, appreciate it. I will pass on his regards, and it was good to be on, guys. It's always good to go down memory lane and think about some of those old stories that, do you know what I mean? I was fortunate enough to live.
100%, yeah, brilliant. Well, great career, mate, and yeah, all the best with everything you're doing as well with your place in Godstone at the moment. So yeah, thank you, Nicky. Appreciate it, mate.
Yeah,
you're welcome
for coming on, Nick.
Guys, you're welcome.
Thanks, guys, and thanks for everyone who's watching and listening. Make sure you slap a like on the video, subscribe to the video, subscribe to the channel, and yeah, thanks everyone. Cheers, guys.